exposed persons, MPP, national executives, regional executives, you have ministers of state, you have governors and all of that. And that is why we take the strong view that going forward, we need a law that will prohibit this. This is totally out of control. We cannot accept this. Under the Ghanaian constitution, public lands are vested in the president to hold in trust for all of us, not to sell the public lands to his cronies, to his party executives, to his appointees. That is not the essence of Mr. President. Take care of these lands on our behalf. You can expect that our report, the oral report, which we'll be presenting to His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, we will capture all of what has gone on here. And remember that this visitation we are carrying out is also a validation exercise. We don't want to be an armchair committee. So what we are also doing today is validating all the reports that have come in. There is no dramatization, there is no exaggeration, or there is no fabrication, so that when we present our report to the president knows that this is a credible report, it is thorough, it is comprehensive, it is unimpeachable, and so we can now move to the next stage of oral.
When he appeared before the committee and was asked about the legality of this oral, he justified it. He justified the unconstitutional establishment and putting together of people who go about harassing former government officials. We believe that the establishment of that oral committee violates and flies in the face of our constitution. And so one would have expected that a law professor in the person of Dr. Ayini would have condemned it. But rather, he justified it. Now his justification is now putting the work of the police CID, IOCO, and special prosecutor, and constitutionally established bodies out of business. It is concerning, and we want the people of Ghana to know that no serious country will entertain anything such as this.
I mean, the public tribunals, we all know, was a menace.
Well, the Operation Recover or Loot has been a major talking point this week, and rightly so. I have a number of them who would be here this morning, a number of the members of this 5-member committee. This is the preparatory committee of the Operation Recover or Loot. The legality and also the exact work, what exactly they are solving, has been one that has been asked by many. But good morning, welcome to Key Point here on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, GSV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com, also on a number of radio stations across the country and beyond. Well, the minority, as you just saw in that press conference, minority in this 9th Parliament, the MPP, they're urging former officials of the Akufo-Addo administration to boycott the anti-corruption team, Operation Recover or Loot, invitations. In fact, they describe the committee as needless and illegal. The minority also strongly opposed this committee's establishment, describing it as unconstitutional. The Suame MP, John Dakon, his predecessor, that's Honorable Sechi Mensah Bonsu, they've all advised former government officials to boycott any invitation from oral. But really, what is the mandate of oral? And what exactly is it seeking to solve? Many have described it as a master stroke in this fight against corruption in this country. We'll have a conversation this morning because this week the oral team has been on a visitation tour, visiting a number of state lands and then also some institutions of which they have received information on. So here on Key Point, we will scrutinize the operations of the committee and whether they are really acting in contravention of the law as the MPP talks about. So we'll have a conversation this morning on oral Operation Recover or Loot. Also, President John Mahama is working to maintain and indeed fulfill his campaign promise of not having more than 60 ministers, the lowest we've had in this country's Fourth Republic. As such, the following ministries appear to have been revoked, quite a number of them: Information, National Security, Parliamentary Affairs, Railway Development, Sanitation and Water Resources. Some others have been merged to other existing ministries. Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs now added to local government. Public enterprises gone. In fact, this restructuring aligns with the NDC administration's goal of optimizing government functions while also addressing these emerging priorities: digital technology, green energy transition, and we've seen a number of them now created. Youth empowerment. A minister designate was announced this week as well. So far, we've had 25 ministries, that's the various ministers announced. As we see it right now, there's been some reactions to whether or not the cutting down of the ministries would in itself achieve the objective of efficiency and also reducing the cost of governance in this country. Because at some point in the SWA administration, we had almost 1,000 presidential staffers. And in another year, they exceeded that 1,000. So we'll be joined by a very, very, very important person in this administration to help us understand really whether they have plans in place to achieve that objective of not just reducing the ministers or the number of ministries, but also achieving cost reduction, which is very, very important, and also the efficiency of the entire process of reduction. Bright Simmons has been really raising issues about this. Alfred Appiah, data analyst, they're all going to be joining us this morning. We'll have a conversation here on Keypoint on this. We're keeping an eye on how things are playing out in ECG as well. This week, the PwC 2023 fourth quarter report revealed that they had 84 accounts that ECG has been keeping. For what exactly? We'll have a conversation this morning on Keypoint. As always, you're an integral part of it. Let's hear from you. Let your voice be heard, because you have a say in what we say here on Keypoint. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. My guest will join me. The conversation starts right now. Stay with us.
This is the reason why I love Ghana.
Then the lottery acquiring penty Yenim said Ghana and Nadim Kunim.
We are one. Ghana has won.
We are proud about Ghana. Sabaya 2 years now. Akos Asundem, I ain't sure how we are.
Africa and the rest of the world salute Ghana.
Don't forget, the lottery acquiring pen. Send love. Love to all Ghanaians. The lottery acquiring pen.
Through every step of life's unpredictable journey, every moment counts. That's why you need a partner you can always trust for solutions, so you can be rest assured. Having impacted over 200,000 lives, processed over 4.2 million claims, partnered with over 400 corporations, paid out over 836 million Ghana cedis in claims, contracted over 1,600 healthcare facilities nationwide, and pioneered several innovations like free medicine delivery, an interactive mobile app, and more. You'll be surprised what can be accomplished in 20 years. We're part of the Nationwide family. Are you? Nationwide Medical Insurance, 20 years of leading the way.
Wanna upgrade is nice, but a double upgrade is amazing. And that's how we do it. Upgrade today to get even more with Step Up. If you're on GoTV Max and upgrade to GoTV Super, you'll get way more with GoTV Super Plus.
So cool!
Get big value. Get big entertainment.
Very good.
Perfect! Upgrade and get even more with GoTV.
Yeah.
GoTV. Love it.
In a world where every moment counts, one team stands ready to deliver the news that shapes our lives. A team driven by truth, integrity, and unwavering dedication. They travel to the front lines in the tireless pursuit of truth to bring you the world stories like never before. Get ready to witness the stories that matter. We have the most trusted voices in journalism who are committed to delivering accurate, balanced, and thought-provoking news. TV3, first in news.
This is Hot Issues, your passport to the most compelling conversations of our time. We go one-on-one with the movers and shakers, the thought leaders, and the game changers. We ask the questions that matter, and we don't back down. Tonight on Hot Issues, I sit with the man at the Center of Corruption Investigations. Join me on Hot Issues here on TV3.
Hot Issues shows Sundays at 2 p.m. on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
The winner of Talented Kids, Season 15.
The wait is finally over. Talented Kids Season 16 is back and it is set to be the most thrilling season. Prepare to be amazed by the mesmerizing performances that will captivate audiences of all ages. We are calling on all institutions, parents, and individuals who believe in the extraordinary talent of children aged 6 to 12. Our audition train to make its first stop in Kumasi on the 6th of February at the McLean Hotel. Then, we'll make its last stop in Accra on the 8th of February at the TV3 premises. Talented kids, free to play.
This week on Today's Woman, our guest, Professor Hajara Lydia Daniels, who's got a vast knowledge in writing, publishing, and education. What do you think we are missing when it comes to reading, writing, or literature in its entirety?
I think we'll start with the way we are taught. We are taught not to think. We just do. And so critical thinking is important in education as well as in life.
Make a date with us this Saturday, 3 p.m. with me, Cookie. It is Today's Woman on TV3.
Today's Woman with Cookie T shows Saturdays at 3 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Vlisco. Cousins Baby.
What kind of goals are you setting for yourself? Are they achievable? Right. Don't try to compromise because you want to please someone. Don't try to please anyone because it doesn't take us anywhere.
Have you ever stayed late at work just because you didn't want to seem like the first one to leave?
Guilty. Thank you.
The Ladies Circle shows this Saturday at 6 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Yaz Sanitary Pad, MTN,
Yaz Toothpaste and Brushes, Woodine,
Cowbell Coffee, Betway,
Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on a number of radio stations across the country, and TV3 Ghana on Facebook, and also on YouTube. We're streaming live on YouTube and on X, TV3 Ghana on X, 3FM 92.7 on X as well. So there are so many ways you can connect with us this morning. And also we're on 3 radio stations across, that's beyond this country, in London and in the United States as well. Good morning to those listening to us in the diaspora. And as always, you have a say in what we say here on Key Point. My name is Alfred Okanse. My guests will be joining me in fact, we've started taking their seats right now. But earlier in the week, my colleague Eric Mawenek sat with the former minority leader and also longest-serving member of parliament for the Suame constituency, was Seche Mensah Bonsu, former Minister of Parliamentary Affairs. And he had a very interesting position on ORA, Operation Recover or Loot. This manifesto promise of the NDC, the fight against corruption, which the President John Dramani Mahama hit the ground running even before he was sworn in as president. He formed the Operation Recover or Loot preparatory team, and 2 members of that 5-member committee are going to be joining us this morning to have a conversation. But this is what Oseche Mensah Bonsu said about oral and the NDC's promise to reintroduce the public tribunals, because that also came up strongly this week during the vetting of Dr. Dominic Ayine, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General designate. Take a look.
The orders provide that they should be joined by these relevant
committees.
The committees have not been set up. The committees have not been set up. And the Speaker of Parliament is the chairman of the Committee on Selection.
Which is supposed to set up these
committees. And the Speaker knows that these committees have not been set up. The Committee on Selection, that is Article 205. The Committee on Selection shall comprise the Speaker as the chairperson and no more than 14 members of Parliament. The Committee on Selection shall prepare and report to the House within the first 10. I mean, the public tribunals, we all know, was a menace. But because it was introduced by the PNDC, it found its way into
the 1992.
And we all know that it has become extinct.
There's a little hitch in that connection right now, but we're restoring connection to this interview by Seche Mensah Bonsu.
I mean, the public tribunals, we all know, was a menace. But because it was introduced by the PNDC, it found its way into
the 1992.
And we all know that it has become extinct. I'm surprised the Honorable Attorney General nominee is trying to suggest to us that he wants to, dust it and bring it back. It will be a national tragedy. And I think that the previous administration, the previous constitutional review, said we should do away with it. The Constitutional Committee, everybody was talking against it, that no, we should purge the constitution of that. And then a lone voice coming to say that we should bring it back. I don't know what purpose is going to serve. And so I think that we should move away from it. As for the oral and
there are those who are drawing linkages between a possible return of the tribunal and the work that this committee is to be doing. Do you see the linkage there as well?
What work?
I mean, the oral.
You say, what is oral? What is it?
Say they are gathering evidence of loot.
Of loot. First of all, if you are saying that you want to restore
public confidence
all looted assets and so on, you are writing letters to people to return this and do this and so on. What does that mean? What does that mean? If you are saying that, if you are alleging looting, already you have established criminality against individuals. But is that what the Constitution provides? A person is deemed innocent until proven guilty. You are saying that the person has looted. You are going for, you are asking him to return. You write a letter to the person. What authority do you have to do that? What's your own authority to do that? You are shredding the image of the person, right? And yet you have not established through any due process the fact that the person has engaged in any criminality. You, because there's a new regime, there's no coup in Ghana. We are not in a coup regime. Everything, we should resort to due process. A person has the right to own his property.
Right.
If you think that he used unauthorized means to acquire the property, let's resort to due process, right, and retrieve it for the state. But you don't take this in your own hands to say that, you know, at the very outset.
They've been visiting sites.
You have established criminality, and the person has looted even before the person is properly investigated and tried. What kind of system is that?
They've been visiting states, sites, lands, and all that,
I was coming from Kumasi today, and I heard
for national security
two people
to
who
station
have constituted themselves into, one of them a journalist, another person, you know, a former, you know, hand engaged by the previous administration, and the two of them have come together, and they are saying that, oh, we've written letters to these people to return this and return this. If you don't, we come there. And listening to them, no, but I say, oh, you better be wow. The dignity of any person in a democracy is inviolable. What authority do you have? Say, office will be for baby. But say, better be wow. I'm coming to beat you. I'm coming to lash you. What is Ghana degenerating into? And I think that the president should speak to these things. I think the president, as a president, should stamp his authority. That we are not in the animal kingdom. Let us respect due process. If you have any suspicion, draw the attention of the appropriate authority. Let investigation be conducted. If the person is found culpable and he has to be charged, he would be, to serve as a deterrent.
Right.
But you don't take the law into your own hands and start issuing threats to people. I think it's going to dent the image of Ghana.
Well, that's Oseche Mensah-Bonsu, the former majority-minority leader, Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, and also the longest-serving MP for the Swami constituency. Later, we'll hear from his successor as well, John Darko, who is the current MP for the Swami constituency, also a private legal practitioner. Oseche Mensah-Bonsu talks about a number of things, that we are not in a coup regime. Why oral? That everybody has a right to acquire property. And so if that acquisition of property is deemed to have been done in a questionable, corrupt manner, the administration of the NDC should resort to due process and properly investigate the persons before even recovering any loot. Well, he's not alone in this. A number of persons who have also asked similar questions. And that's why we brought one member of the team, Operation Recover All Loot preparatory team. And bear in mind, this is just the preparatory team. They are preparing the way for the oral team itself, if the statement establishing them is anything to go by. And then also one of them will join us on Zoom. But Martin Pebu is a member of the 5-member Operation Recover All Loot preparatory team. He's a private legal practitioner. He is the convener of the Komipeko-led demonstration of the foremost human rights lawyers we have in this country. Lawyer Martin Pebu, good morning. Welcome.
Morning, Mr. Okansi. Good.
How are you and oral?
Yeah, very well. We are making progress with oral. Yeah, a lot of progress. But as usual, let me do the normal greetings. Greet Gamanche and the rest. So Gamanche, Kentucky, Teku Churu, the second. Good morning, morning. We are forever grateful. More fire. Gamanche says that he's not resting until he gets justice in the Sicily Adapa matter. One woman should not have so many millions of dollars and pounds and euros, etc., under her bed. This is not the Ghana Kwame Nkrumah bills for us. Okay.
You know, this week she was in the news.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Again.
Yes.
Okay.
She was in
She
the news.
denies receiving 43 million.
We'll put it on the screen right now on 3news.com.
Aid clarifies.
Yes.
Oh.
Let's put that on the screen right now. This is what happened in court. Okay. But, yes, she's denied one of the many issues that came up. Receiving this $43 million for this ODOP project River. River project, I beg your pardon.
All right.
So, yeah.
Let's see how it goes. You know, it's normal. I mean, hardly will people accept their wrongdoing. A lot of people don't. So let's see how it goes, since the matter is in court. But we will have to get justice. Yes, we have to get justice in this matter, right? And it's good that Ghanaians have changed government so that now the judge herself will be free, maybe the investigative agencies will be free, and everybody will be free to be able to dig so that we get justice. Hey, and then number 2, Yasantua Sofo. Oh, you know, I've been trying to remember if I've ever seen an outside court. I don't seem to remember, but on Thursday, I finally met her. I've been trying to remember that outside the Supreme Court, have I ever met her? I don't, unless maybe. But for the past 3 days, I don't remember ever meeting her outside court. But on Thursday, I met her. She said she will grant your interview, right? Yeah, you know, last week I mentioned that she granted an interview, the most recent one, in which she also bemoaned this lack of separation of powers in our constitution.
Indeed.
Where the judiciary is under the armpit of the executive. She bemoaned it and said, no, let's have a proper constitutional review so that Article 144 will be properly reviewed. The Supreme Court will not have the justices, and for that matter, all the superior courts will not have the justices appointed by the president. No, it makes the judiciary an appendage of the executive. You remember I told you how Akufo-Addo sent Godfrey Dame after Justice Bafuboni, hounded him left, right, center for about 6 years. Get out of office, get out of office. This thing should never happen again. Elsewhere, it's impeachable that we could have used that alone to impeach Akufo-Addo. You can't hound a Supreme Court judge. Get out of office, get out of office, just because he did what his conscience felt right. That, listen, if people went to vote, killed in the sun, were scorched, and then they voted, the failure of a presiding officer to sign should not nullify their votes. Is this difficult to understand? And then for 6 years or so, scorched, hounded Bafuboni left, right, center, wouldn't even give him proper audience in the Jubilee House, etc. Denied him many amenities and facilities, you know. So we've learned a great lesson. And there are other cases of judicial interference, but we don't have the, this is not the topic for today, so I don't want to go too far, right? So for Ekufu, we are grateful. It was nice meeting you. And I bet, the presence of Jim Mensah's husband. Can you imagine going to that meeting? I was like, hey, is the man going to ask me that? Why have you been criticizing my wife for, but that didn't come up at all, but as I sat down there, I was like, hey, what is going through his mind? Maybe he hasn't seen. Okay, so yes, that's why we're grateful. Thanks. Indeed. Then, Osi Adeyo Ajimambedu II, Domahini, good morning. Domahini, more fire. Now that we know JM is generally better when it comes to media freedom, so we expect more booms from Domahini. Yes, Domahini is a trailblazer, a chief who doesn't think that he should be an armchair chief, but rather thinks that, yes, when things go wrong, he should step out and point out the wrongs. That's the only way this our democracy would thrive, because I keep quoting Plato. Says exactly the philosopher came. It starts with that an unexamined life is not worth living. Indeed. An unexamined life is not worth living. What does it mean? That among the citizens should ask questions. Citizens should hold leaders to account. So where we say, oh, because he's a chief, he shouldn't come into politics, that's not true, as long as it's not being partisan. You even remember the Supreme Court, Elon Kwame Goni, the Attorney General. The Supreme Court said the chiefs can take part in politics, but they should not just, they should not show their preference for candidates. Don't show your preference. So if family and friends man, Dr. Palgrives Dankwa, right, Wachi Dankwa, is contesting with Honorable Dafia Meko, what the Supreme Court says is that, yes, we can say, okay, Palgrives policies are good, etc., but just don't go the final step that I want to vote for him, or I prefer him to Honorable Dafia Meko. And no, sometimes, you see, let's be practical. By extolling the policies of one party, against the other, indirectly you are preferring them. But at least that's how the Supreme Court has held it. So the point I'm making is that the Supreme Domahini has enough space to be able to contribute more. Right. And then finally, our 52.5 billion, Auditor General Johnson Esedu, please, we must have that money before you exit. Let's get into that matter. 52.5 billion. How much did we borrow from the IMF? Huh? So much money moving from GCB to unknown sources. Let's get into it. We can't sit there and allow our classmates, juniors, sons and daughters to steal so much money. And then we are quiet. And then we just whitewash it with reports. We must find that money.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, and you remember when this matter came up, I recall the audit service issued a statement that it wasn't true. In fact, in the coming weeks, we have to we're going to dedicate a portion of the conversation on this matter. Because if you talk about he addressing it before he leaves office, that may be sooner than later.
Okay.
So we're going to do that as quickly as possible. Because every time you mentioned it, I keep getting messages about what the entire 52.5 billion matter is about. Yeah. People don't really know.
Okay.
And so we would have to get into the details of it. And also, Rosin Dafian, of course, MP for the South Dye constituency, is a private legal practitioner. He's a member of the appointments committee of this 9th Parliament. Good morning. Welcome.
Morning. Thank you very much. Good morning to my co-panelists.
I forgot to greet this Lebanese Zion Farms and all the people on social media. Your guys, they hold your program. They say it is possible radio, 41.2 FM. It is possible.
Let me now, Dr. Pagre Boachidankwa is the former government spokesperson on governance and security. That's for the Akufo-Addo administration. Thank you so much for joining us. Dr. Pagre Boachidankwa.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity.
Fantastic. Appreciate you as always. And we'll be having a few persons join us on Zoom as well. So stay with us. And then later we'll have some further conversation. Yes, a quick point. Nano Hininto is also joining us right now, former General Secretary of the MPP. He was special aide to Alan Chamantin in the 2024 elections. Well, yes, a quick one.
Yes, the issue regarding the money, the 52.5 billion. It was the Auditor General that flagged the matter. Auditor General revealed in its report that that amount of money was missing. It could not be traced when he left the bank of the commercial bank and the consolidated accounts at the Bank of Ghana. It couldn't be traced. Now, it was reported in the annual audit report, and so at public accounts we raised it. Then, somehow a year later, the same Auditor General came to explain that somehow they've been able to reconcile the accounts and that there appears to be no problem.
Yes.
We had big issue with it. So the then chairman, Chairman Aveji, had written to the Bank of Ghana and the Auditor General to give further and better particulars of this so-called reconciliation. It never happened.
Exactly.
So it's a matter that requires a full parliamentary inquiry.
Thank you. Thank you.
So is it one that you would instigate, take up
champion.
In this 9th Parliament? You have the majority.
It is one of the issues I intend to move a motion for a full parliamentary inquiry into that, as well as the 25 plus 5 billion financial sector cleanup cost. We don't know which consultants were recruited, how much they charged.
Thank you.
Because to spend in excess of 30 billion, because 25 billion plus 5 billion, to recover, as it were, a cumulative value of assets totaling around 9 billion. It didn't make sense. I've filed a formal question for this to be explained by the then finance minister. He will never come. So these matters must be gone into.
Thank you.
Colossal amount of money.
Thank you. Evading accountability. That's why we voted for you. So make sure.
Says this was done. It was a necessary act.
Yes, but it's necessary act. But to be accountable.
So you're going to take it up?
Yes.
So I would expect that from you.
It will happen. Cecilia Adapa was given $53 million to desilt the drains and deal with the flooding in Accra. She came to Parliament upon a question filed by Honorable Eric Opoku, and the video is there. Upon answering those questions, she said she spent as much as $41 million to desilt the outdoor drains and to also construct some drains. As we speak, the outdoor is filled with silt.
Yeah.
It turned out that some part of that money, I suppose, were found under her bed. Because
but that has to be proven.
Unexplained wealth. We know what she's done.
Yes.
You
But
can't.
this matter is in court.
Article 284 plot 6.
Yes, unexplained wealth.
She couldn't explain
This
twice
is also a matter.
at the OSP.
This is also a matter that requires a parliamentary inquiry.
This is Cecilia Adapa matter.
Yes.
With specific reference to this money for the desilting of the Odo.
It's a matter of parliamentary record.
So you have said three things this morning.
Yes.
And I don't like that anybody who comes here to say something, I hold you to it. Zola Martin Pebu has said he's going to take up cases to prosecute the former president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
Absolutely.
Because he's consistently said here that he's corrupt. And you say you started 2 cases already.
Yeah.
So I'm taking you up on that one.
Yes.
Just a reminder.
Thank
Also, Nelson of Indafio Post has said 3 things. Full parliamentary inquiry into this 52.5 billion matter.
Yes.
And then the banking sector cleanup.
Yes.
How much money was spent in there? The
We know how much
consultants and
was
so
spent,
the
but how it
25
was
billion
spent.
and the 5 billion.
Yeah.
It could be more because you see, we started from 20 billion. Went
No,
to 25.
15.
And then now we are talking about
Then 5,
beyond 25
then
billion.
5.
I thought even 9 at a point. I thought they
No,
said
9 was the cumulative value of the
Okay.
investment that was threatened.
So it could be more. So this is why an inquiry is needed, and I'll take you up on that. And then this Cecilia Adapa matter as well. So these 3 things.
Yes.
You have a social contract with our viewers
Yes.
to get it done.
I do.
But Aura has been busy this week, Council.
Yeah.
The Aura preparatory team.
Yeah.
So the understanding I get with your team is that you're only preparing the way for the oral itself, correct?
Exactly.
Or you just started the work of oral?
No. This just there's the preparatory. So like in the Bible, John the Baptist. So we are John the Baptist. We are paving the way for the real action. So like when we're small, they used to be they say comedies. When they say comedies,
for the movie.
So it is even this comedies is what has generated so much conversation about your work.
Yes.
Then the real oral, I don't know what's going to happen.
So there's another thing you hear. They say when dry bones are mentioned, then all ladies become uncomfortable, right? Exactly. Or which other rendition you want? Yeah. So when dry bones are mentioned, then all ladies take cover or become uncomfortable. That's what is happening.
But let me bring in Dr. Pagre Bachida because, but this week you went to a number of places. Quickly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the NDA, Northern Development Authority, you went to check there. I understand that fence wall has been pulled down.
Yeah, national security. Yes.
National security pulled down.
Yeah, so we reported, we drew the attention of national security to the illegal fence wall there, right? And eventually national security took it down. Because, you can't just, the state capture has to stop. It has to stop because people are still very, very, very angry. And I'm sure JM knows it as president. He knows that the way the anger is lingering, if he doesn't begin to act fast, people will channel the anger towards him. So it's within our collective interest that national security acted because, the ND was given 1.73 acres of land, right? And that place, it's even for the avoidance of that. That's why we did the Constitutional Review Commission sittings, etc. So that's, and I understand even prior to that, there were other public projects, etc. So you can't just come and overnight begin to parcel out the land. No. It can't happen. Elsewhere, we'll preserve it even as a monument, So I've heard so many stories. Bottom line is that no, that land is not going anywhere. Once national security is stepped in, let's see how it goes. For the rest, we'll put it in our report, and I'm sure...
Because the CEO came out last week to say they haven't encroached on any land. The 1.2 acres given to them is what they are.
I asked the CEO, when did he assume office? when did he assume office? He is a Latter-day Saint. He was appointed only recently. How long has it been? You remember the NDA case we did in Tamale? It was after Sumala Abdurrahman had to resign and the 2 deputies were sacked. That's when this CEO came. So he's a Latter-day Saint.
So this is it. This is the video we are showing now.
Yeah. He wasn't there from the beginning. So I think you don't worry. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about it, you know. But we will see with time. As I said, that building predates him. It's not as if he came into office and acquired it. So he maybe he doesn't have all the history about that land. Okay. So he should reserve judgment. He should reserve judgment. Let's see how it pans out.
But this fence wall we are seeing has been pulled down by national security.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's good. It's in our collective interest. But when they came, Akufo-Addo said if you want to make money, go to the private sector. You remember at his inauguration, the grandstanding, John Mahama cannot teach me how to preserve the public purse. John Mahama cannot teach me how to preserve the public purse. In the end, like Sam George says, Akufo-Addo went away with the public purse. Now we have to look for another purse. Please, I mean, let national security do its work.
Then after here, you went to another site. Yes. As well, there was one place that you went that we saw so many documents.
Agric mechanization, yeah.
Documents that were left to them at the mercy of the weather.
Yes.
Destroyed.
Yes.
What happened there?
Yes, so Bema Camp. So, on your way to Bema Camp, just before the overhead, to your left, that's if you are coming from Elwak.
Right.
Just after Elwak, towards Bema Camp, before you climb the overhead, on your left, that's the land there. We went there and saw that, I mean, many acres of land had been parceled out, but this land belonged to the Ministry of Agric, right? Even exporters, can you imagine? Exporters who have to preserve the cold chain so that from that place to the airport is a very short distance. Can you imagine? Look at the irony, if you want to understand the state capture. The Exporters Association, and they were interviewed. Please, I'm not the one saying it. So the media men interviewed them. For their parcel of land, they were asked to pay $500,000.
$500,000?
Yes, their parcel of land. Let's just call it one plot, okay? So like 70 by 100. Said that's what the authorities asked them to pay, okay?
So these are the documents we are talking about.
Yes.
The documents and the equipment will show the documents.
Yes, yes. Some rain has already beaten some. So we have started arrangements so that the archives people will come for them. Otherwise, everything will be gone.
This was the office for the Director for Agric Engineering. So all the tractors that were given to farmers by the Ministry of Agric, this was where they were distributed.
But how come they were all just left at the mercy of the weather like that?
No, state capture, looters.
They've removed the roofing of the yard, of the garages. You should be talking to Brian Champo. Why this has happened?
Absolutely. We'll not hand over.
Because 3 years ago, it wasn't like that. Even 4 years ago, it wasn't like that. Suddenly, he became a Greek minister, and this place has been sold.
No, but the documents that we saw destroyed there, Council, what were those documents? Did you... Because I saw some of you taking them out.
They relate to policies, okay? And then, policies of the Agric Ministry. All right, basically all their workings. Because I remember some were policies, some were invoices, correspondences, okay, between the Agric Ministry and foreign agencies, the UN agencies, FAO, etc. So we are making efforts for them to be taken by the archives so that the rain doesn't destroy them further. But viewers, let's tie in this point before we forget. So the Vegetable Farmers Association, I remember Morrison and his people, they were asked to pay $500,000 for one plot, right?
In that same area.
That same area. They showed you. You see, it's a cold chain. That is where they put the vegetables before they export, right? Yet, just next to them, this same land was offered to ministers, etc., for 160,000 Ghana cedis.
160,000
cedis? Yes,
cedis.
if you convert, to be very generous, let's call it $12,000. Within the same space, you say somebody should pay $500,000.
And that's
then,
for the vegetable exporters.
Then the next person, you say you've given the land to the person for $12,000.
And you saw documentation to that effect.
Absolutely, the documents are out there.
Ministers in the SY administration were giving parcels of this land around cantonments.
Yes.
For
$12,000. That's the equivalent. You saw the one that came out.
Vegetable exporters.
Were
asked to buy it for $500,000.
Absolutely. TV3, you even did a story. You even did a story on it. The leaked document, where one of them, you see his document. Mr. Kwekusu, the NIB director, the one I made the comment. You saw his document come out. You see 160,000 Ghana cedi and some change. Just call it 160.
I thought you denied.
Excuse me, but this is around the Birmingham area.
Like I said, he didn't buy government land. Well, thankfully, it was leaked and people could read it. They could see his picture. You see his face.
Documents have been destroyed over there like that.
Yes. We are making efforts. Archives will come for them. Actually, it's good we really change these people. Though. Somebody said in the next 4 years, the whole of Ghana would have been gone.
That's you walking there.
Yes. And the whole of Ghana would have been gone if we had given
motorbikes and all these, which were meant for the Greek mechanization office. Were just
parceled out. So they were just going to bulldoze these things down, and then because this is a part that's yet to be developed. So this part, no, it's not going away. No, government is taking it back. Because we can't do this. State capture has to stop. You capture banking industry, you capture land, you capture every sector of the economy. State capture. Ekufuado and his family.
So the ministers in the or members, you say you have documentation that shows that members in the SY administration were offered these lands for $12,000.
Yes,
did anyone of them buy, apart from him, did anybody else buy the land?
Yes,
you have documentation that there are more persons within the previous administration who bought lands in this Birmingham cantonments area for $12,000.
Absolutely. But not even this list. Honorable Ablakwa had this list even before the elections. You remember he kept making noise about it, Crusader, Interceptor General. He had these documents before Ora came.
Yes, but I'm talking about this particular area.
I'm telling you that Okujeto Ablakwa had these documents before the election. So please, I'm not talking from Ora. It's the publicly available evidence. You see here the long list. Henry Cote, you see Henry Cote's wall there, Baumia, you see, of course, not direct, let's be careful, not directly his name, but underground, people will tell that is his. You see, they said other government appointees, right? A lot. Oh, Okujeto had a list. Okujeto has a list.
I keep asking because we don't have it. And I keep asking because so that
I think he was here.
Make it, those ones we talked about were the other ones, the Morning Star. Sorry,
but
the Ghana Mechanization School. Because this agreed mechanization came up this week.
And this was the first time. I'm telling you that.
And then there are some other. It was some portions of this land that he mentioned previously, but these ones you are mentioning now. This is the first time I'm hearing this, and so that's why I keep asking because we don't know.
NIB
we don't know it here.
He has always been there. His list that came out, the one that is out there in social media, it dates from 2021.
I see.
Yes. We'll continue it from here. Atubre's own, it dates from 2021. So they didn't. 2021. In actual fact, efforts to sell that land didn't start today. Somebody gave me information that as far back as 2017. So a consultant, a land guru was brought in, and he gave the former minister advice that it shouldn't be done this way. Because he wanted to do it more professionally, they sacked him. And then they went and did this current one that's brought the trouble. So what I'm saying is that it's not new. But I mean, you saw that on social media, even on lawyers' platform, Atubre's document was shared. That's the strength of the Ghanaian community. You know that people will leak documents. And it's not only in Ghana we leak. You remember I brought Condoleezza Rice's book, former U.S. Secretary of State. It's leaking. The leaking of documents keeps the American society going. Yes, and it's been there decades. Somebody sees something wrong, a person doesn't want to bring his or her face out, so you leak it anonymously. And Ghana cry, remember we mentioned this often, this example we keep mentioning all the time. The former public prosecutor, Lawyer Apia, Yeah, Brighter, Quito and Co were prosecutors in that case. Lawyer Pierre, you know how they got him? Somebody brought the dossier and put it in front of the office of the Brighter Pierre and Co, their office. And when they opened it, they saw Lawyer Pierre's bank accounts in London, how he received money from Otiko Jabez's father and other people. And that's how they nailed Lawyer Pierre. He was public prosecutor. Our history, I'm just remembering so many things. The Jaggi Commission, when Jaggi Commission
said the scandal, it was through leakage of documents.
I like that example.
Yes.
Do you know why I like that example?
It toppled the president.
And apart from that, he was deputy director of FBI.
Yes.
The deputy director, so like our Ghana NIB. So like the time Atubura was deputy, then he would say, this things Akufo-Addo is doing, I don't like them. Like the way Sofa Ekufu is bold. So though Akufo-Addo put me there, then Atubura could take the documents and leak. Atubura never did that for Ghana. He was helping Akufo-Addo.
Well, that's what
so the deep throat source, please, viewers, Google it. I like that example. What's his name? Is it David something?
It is that period that the term deep throat source.
Yes, the deep throat source. He was deputy director of the FBI. He saw that what was going on was bad. Then he said, no, Nixon. And you know they gave Nixon this name. It's called Tricky Dick. Tricky Dick. A female senatorial candidate gave him that name. He said, what Nixon told the lady was that she was pink under, that her underwear and everything was pink. So then the lady said, Nixon, that's ex-president this of the U.S., he said Nixon is Tricky Dick. And that name is stuck. If you Google all of it, you see it. I mean, it's good. It's good to know a bit of this, their democracy,
history,
because we are learning
right
from
now.
them.
So really, and I decided to just have you tell us what Ora has been up to this week.
Yeah.
Because we saw videos of where you've been and, all of those documents. And a number of our viewers took pictures of those documents that were left at the mercy of the weather. You say that the Archives Department has been called in to salvage what is left of those documents. Dr. Bring in Dr. Pagre Boache-Dankwa on this, because this week as well, the MPP has been consistent about oral. You're raising questions about the legality of it, but hearing what they have been doing already, and the fact that they haven't invited anybody, as far as I know, have you invited anybody to?
No, not at all. It's good we clarify that, please. We are not in the business of inviting suspects. No.
Okay.
The mandate is that citizens, let's do about 2 minutes on this. Let's read the law. The mandate, you see, JM said people were inundating him with cases of suspected corruption, state capture, etc. Okay. So in his wisdom, he thought that he should set up a committee ahead to begin to receive this. Because the president, even you look at your life as a human being from morning to evening, how much are you able to accomplish? Then you're putting this to JM, like sending all that to him when he's about to take office. So it was obvious that he couldn't do anything. So he said, let me set up a committee so that channel all the complaints and etc. to those people. And that is our law. Our law allows it that if you see crime, and let's even make that point.
Because there's a question about the legality of this particular committee that you are a member of. What law are you referring to that gives the president the power to set up this committee?
Yeah, so there are a number of laws. Let's start with the Whistleblowers Act. You will see in Section 3, they've stated many things that many ways of helping to combat crime. So what you find is that it says that when you see crime, and for some reasons, you see, we've been saying that human beings, we are unique. Not everybody sees crime and has the confidence to walk straight to the police, right? So some people need support, all right? Others who are just plainly scared. So it says that when you see impropriety, which includes crime and other civil wrongs, please, let's start from the lowly persons, or the persons who are not, instead of lowly, sorry. I want to say, start from persons who are not near law enforcement at all, so that you can appreciate our criminal justice system. Section 3 of the Act says that you can take the matter, what you've seen, instead of walking straight to the police, if you can go to the head or an elder of the family of the whistleblower. That is Section 3L. Okay? You can also go to your pastor. So it's stated here, M, a head of a recognized religious body. Then N, a member of a district assembly, there's also provision for you to go to a member of parliament, that is F. Then there is also provision for you to go to a chief. So the chief of your village, you can go to Domahine, you can go to Kentucky, Tekochuru, the second Gamanche. You can go to the Odikro of your village. Every chief do. So, and this list is not exhaustive. It's not. So when the president sets up the committee and says, please receive, check. Oh, the last time, another example, we're even here with Mariada, this Ghana Integrity Initiative. They also, as an NGO, they receive complaints. And I can tell you on authority that some of the exposés you see in the media is through them. They receive complaints and then they get investigators to investigate. And those are the matters, some of the corruption-related exposés you see in Ghana. I just don't know whether I can mention specific examples. After here, I will access so that next time I'll tell you. But I can tell you on authority that some of the big cases you see is people who report. So Ghanaians go to these NGOs that, Auntie Mary, look, government is doing X, Y, Z here. It's bad. Then they look into it. Then they get an investigative journalist who does a big expose. Then from there to police, etc. We've always had this culture. I didn't start now. But like I said, please, as part of our democracy, they say an unexamined life is not worth what living. So it's normal. Let citizens ask questions. Please, are you going to talk to Professor Kweku Asare? He is even, apart from the Whistleblowers Act, Act 720, he's done a beautiful write-up and given other justifications from Article 58 of the Constitution, the President's mandate to make sure that the laws are implemented, etc. And also, let's repeat, citizens, Fana, haven't we always known that as a citizen, you can do citizen arrest, and then also you can go fetch information and give police? Why are we doing this? So sections 10 to 12 of the Act 30, that's the Criminal and Other Offences into brackets Procedure Act. Formally, its popular name is Criminal Procedure Act. You will see it there, which says that a private citizen, when you see a criminal offense, you can arrest, and then you take the person to the police station. Citizens have always been helping law enforcement agencies with what? Evidence. When President Kufuor was in office, he set up the Office of Accountability to receive complaints of corruption, abuse of office, etc. At the time President Kufuor set up the office, didn't the police exist? Didn't Yoko exist? Didn't Shraj exist? Etc. So this argument that there are law enforcement agencies, with due respect, is threadbare. It's threadbare. It doesn't hold master. No. You know, but like I said, the value of it is that by citizens rising and cautioning us, it puts us in check that we shouldn't overstep our bounds. But like I've said, we are John the Baptist. We came to pave the way. We are not the savior. Jesus himself, the real oral implementation team will come. And you see, OSP issued this report, the half-yearly report. In there, they say they work with ORA. So it's okay. By all means, let the comments come in, and then we will see what we will do with that.
I don't know if, yes.
1 minute to round up.
Yes, we're getting through to Professor Kukwaza in a bit. But Dr. Palgrave, this question about the legality and the references that Matikbebo has just made, which has roots in
let
the
me
law.
give you one information from from Franklin Kujo. He says a deputy minister, in the Kufuor's government, gave me the Kelny GVG information. Let's repeat. So you see the Kelny GVG, we'll be going there.
He just sent that to you?
Yes, the Kelny GVG that we've been saying that they are not doing much work, we are not getting value for money, etc. Franklin Kujo says a deputy minister in Kufuor's government gave him the information on Kelny GVG. So please, I mean, this thing, it's okay, sir. Now that you've asked the question, you see we've answered, and you see you are even stopping because I still have 1,001 answers. The last one, the Kroll and Associates, the one that brought Akufo-Addo and Osafo Maafo a lot of shame. When they brought Kroll and Associates to come and help investigate waste of public funds, recover, that's a foreign agency. It was Akufo-Addo and Osafo Maafo who brought in Kroll and Associates here. that they should come and help investigate so that we can recover funds and the rest. Of course, say Dom Leveau says they didn't do any work, then it led to the Supreme Court, and then of course that's why Dom Leveau was sacked, and then we went to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court delayed a bit in giving judgment. But at least today we have a judgment that shows that Akufo-Addo acted wrongly in asking Dom Leveau to proceed on leave. But the pith of the matter is that Kroll and Associates, who came into Ghana to help do investigations. So at the time Akufo-Addo and Osafo Mafu were appointing Kroll and Associates, didn't Yoko exist? Didn't the Ghana Police Service exist, etc.? So we are giving answers.
Talk about Daniel Yadamilov is going to be joining us in a bit. Dr. Bachidangwa, on this matter of legality and the reference that I've made right now, does it answer the question that you have been asking? I mean, not you alone, the MPP, throughout the week?
Alfred, it's a very great concern because for me, President John Dramani Mahama is setting up his team.
For what?
In terms of governance, he's appointing ministers, setting up his office, and there are some members of Oral who have been given full mandatory offices in the government. And it's important that whilst these people remain on Oral Committee, whilst they are fulfilling their mandate in the presidency of John Dramani Mahama, they don't abuse that office. So I'll just name a few. You recall that Lawyer Pebu mentioned that national security went to demolish a wall. You know, Alfred, we live in a country where rule of law must be abided by. We are aware that the president set up the National Security Coordinating Team. You recall that, and Prosper Bani as the advisor on national security, and then the COP as the national security coordinator, and then Kofi Boakye as the director of operations at the presidency. In my mind, I'm thinking that if DCOP Kofi Boakye retired still serves on the Oral Committee whilst remaining the director of operations at the presidency, and we see national security going to demolish walls. I mean, I know that there are various roles and responsibilities in the security architecture. One of the things that you do not want to see almost immediately is an abuse of office or an abuse of power. The questions that are being asked are rightful questions. I mean, you state that President Kufuor set up a team. You state that President Akufo-Addo set up a team. But at the time when the Oral Committee was set up, President John Dramani Mahama was a president-elect. And I think that when we ask those questions, they are very genuine questions that Oral Committee was set up to be receiving. Okay, here we are, we see the Oral Committee, beyond receiving, they are scouting, and beyond scouting, they are moving from one place onto another place. It's okay, I mean, but I think that, you see, let's ensure that we don't unnecessarily put criminality on people who have not gone through the proper procedures of either going to court and being accused by a judge and all of that. I mean, all of those things are very, very, very important, which is why for us as a New Patriotic Party, we are asking the question. Today, we have President John Dramani Mahama, who has all the constitutional backing to re-establish any committee that he wants. We haven't heard him speak about Oral since he's been sworn in terms of what their mandate is. And there are clear distinctions. When you're a president-elect, you have no authority. I mean, you're just in a transitional period waiting to come in. And at the moment when you are sworn in, you recall, I mean, there are issues that are upcoming now. I mean, LGBT, the fact that the president says that the churches should teach more, and that if we teach more, there will be no need for us to sign LGBT into a law, and all of those processes and everything, which clearly means that if we ask the question about the legality of Oral, is right. Because at the time when you set up the Oral Committee, you were president-elect. Now you've been sworn in. You have the mandate of the Ghanaian people. Are you wanting to give Oral any constitutional backing? Are you wanting to give Oral the authority that they so need? And to state that There is no way the New Patriotic Party or even personally we are against accountability. There is no way that people should abuse office. There is no way that people should capture state properties. There is no way that we should all encourage that. And so the motive of it is not a problem. But we are asking the key questions that procedurally, you set up an oral committee when you are president-elect. You are president now. Would you want to use your presidency and your executive powers to recommit oral on some mandates that you want them to do, or you just want to observe them as they do what they do? These are clear questions that we are asking. Do you want the national security to be causing fear into people whilst they are demolishing things? Has the national security got that mandate to be demolishing walls? And so those are questions that we are asking. We're also asking a question. This COP, Kofi Boateng retired. It's now the director of COP. Okay, COP, Kofi Boateng retired. It's now director of operations at the presidency, and also is serving on the oral committee. Does he want to relinquish his role on the oral committee, or he wants to do both? Those are clear directions and questions that we want to ask. And I'm very certain that as the various ministerial lists come out, maybe the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa would have a role in the government in terms of serving in any capacity. Would he still keep his role as leading the oral committee and all of that? So these are questions that we are asking, and they are questions of governance. And I think that when we ask those questions and give those positive feedbacks, it will be important for the government of the day to adhere to it, to listen to it, and see where they can make those changes, and to see that we are not just talking because we want to talk, but we are talking because we are concerned. We are concerned that people are going to properties that people have. You don't know the processes within which they acquired those properties. They may be rightful owners of those properties. The lands may be rightfully given to them. But putting out all these informations without not allowing them to go through a judicial process, or without not allowing them to go through the processes of prosecutor, Yoko, FIC, SHRAJ, all of these are constitutionally mandated bodies. And if you open up your arms and you want to work with them, then you have the full state apparatus backing you.
I said, but does the explanation that this oral team doesn't have prosecutory rights, they are just receiving information from the public and onward transmission to these state agencies that you talk about, does it then answer the question and the concern that you're raising, that they go on fact-finding and validation? Because the understanding I get is that even before you went on this tour, this visitation this week, you had received information about all of these places that you visited. So you went out this week to go and validate the information you had received. Is that what happened?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Dr. Bachi Dankwa, to the extent that they went out to these places based on information received from the public and to validate them, what exactly is the concern?
Alfred, let me ask a question. Did oral instruct national security to destroy the wall or break down the wall?
How can we instruct?
So how did national security come in?
No, we reported danger that there was going to be that.
No, you see, so that's where the problem is.
How can we instruct?
No, exactly.
It doesn't include our
of course, it does not include your mandate. Good. I'm glad you stated that. And so, how do you report to national security that there is danger, and so national security should now come and break
Were
down
you
the
there?
wall?
You
no,
and
I'm
I.
asking
Were
the
you
question.
there?
No, I'm asking the
No,
question.
we didn't do that.
No, exactly.
Please.
No, but you see,
I've told you already that.
Alfred, these are the important questions that must be asked.
I've told you already that.
These are the important questions that must be asked, because you see, here we are. Oral goes on a fact finding, which is not a problem. Oral receives documents, which is not a problem. But here we are. Oral now is in the midst of the processes where national security comes to destroy or break down a wall. It's not a problem. But you see, the real challenge is, and that's why I'm raising the concerns, the real challenge is that you do not want to abuse the office of the national security. The national security has been set in place for a number of deliverables, and the strategy is very clear for everyone to know. But you do not want to abuse that role or that right, which is why we are asking, is it oral that asks the national security to come and destroy the wall? Is it national security by their own intuition, by the report, that decided that they will go and destroy the wall? On what basis is that? So we must ask the right questions so that the right things are done. And for us, that's the most important thing, so that you do not seem to cause judgment on the narrative that you put in place. Because in all of the conversations that we're having, it so appears that they are causing judgment that this is state capture. this is looting, this is that, this is that. But you're gathering. You're supposed to be gathering and then sending all those documents that you have gathered to any of the state institutions that we still have available. FIC, YOCO, SHRAJ, Office of the Special Prosecutor, CID. We have all of these constitutionally mandated bodies that can be receiving these documents, that can be working on that.
But you say you're not against accountability.
We are not against accountability
in any
at all.
form that it comes.
We are not against accountability at all. But the processes are important.
See, if the process you talk about, so for instance, if you hear this information that we're getting from the oral preparatory team, that land in what we are showing right now in the Cantonment's Bema Camp area, which belongs to the Agric Mechanization Service of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, was being offered based on the information that the oral preparatory team has received, was being offered to former government officials at $12,000. And the vegetable exporters who were already using the place were being evicted and were asked to buy a parcel of the land for $550,000. Does that not concern you?
No, Alfred, if I bring you documents and I say that I've received these documents, you have to, that's why we go to court. When you go to court, there is proof of evidence. Oral is not a court. Is oral a court? Oral is not a court. Good. So the fact that you have received documents does not mean that the documents you have received is what it is. You must go through the processes.
But is anybody denying that?
No, you see, that is why, if it, like the question that Alfred is asking, that the Agric Mechanization project, some has been given to former appointees of the SWAL government.
Based on the documentation
that they have received. But you see, those documentations that you have received, right, it's not full proof of evidence. Beyond the fact that, of course, I can prepare documents and give to you.
Okay, so you like time review.
I can prepare documents.
Arguments at this
I
stage.
can prepare documents and give to you, and that's why I'm saying that.
So the one that leaked, has Atubra denied it?
I can prepare
the one that leaked.
I can prepare documents
and
give to you.
Has Atubra denied it?
He's denied it. He's brought
the document, the lease.
Hold on. So if, and this is
you want to put the
not talk about, yes, we've already done that throughout the week. If an indenture document, which has not been denied by the Lands Commission, is provided, that's not just a document, that you can gloss over. So if you say you as an individual can also prepare a document, if the document is coming from a state agency, would you gloss over that?
Alfred, you will not gloss over anything, but the main thing is that you are not the judge to pass the judgment. That's all the basis we are saying. You are not the judge to pass the judgment.
But the oral team doesn't have prosecutory rights.
Exactly.
Right?
And
I think
so
that has been clear from day one.
Absolutely. So they don't have that right to pass a judgment. People acquire lands in this country. People acquire lands legitimately. People acquire lands illegitimately. But when you acquire land illegitimately, you must be able to go to court. If I say that this land belongs to me, I must bring my documents. If he says that this land belongs to him, he must also bring his documents. And who must be the judge? It is the court. Until the court has proven otherwise, all of these things is straw, which is why it is important that we ask the right questions and we put them to full proof.
Nano Eninto is a former General Secretary of the MPP and also the Special Aide to Alan Chimanting in the 2024 elections for the butterfly movement. That's Movement for Change. Good morning. Nano Eninto, welcome.
Thank you, Alfred. Good morning.
Good to have you. But let me stay a bit further on Dr. Pagwe Bachidankwa, because there are a number of questions that they raised this week, and which borders on the work of oral. To the extent that you're asking Dr. Bachidankwa that the information they receive should, in your view, not be made public. It should just be transmitted to the state institutions to work on it. We shouldn't know about it.
You know, right? Alfred, oral has a mandate. And whether or not the information they receive is made public or not made public is not the substance of the issue we are stating here. The substance of the issue is that whatever oral is receiving, they must not pass judgment on it. That's all. Oral must not pass judgment on whatever evidence that they have. You can't pass judgment on an evidence that you have received when the one that you are passing judgment upon has not even responded or is not within an environment where he can be able to give contrary evidence. That's all. If not, then yes, we should all just fold our arms and allow them to do what they want to do. But that's not what we want to do. We want to ask the right questions. Don't pass judgment on evidence of documents that you have received.
Okay, so I wanted to find out. No, wait, I also want to find out what exactly you mean by the oral team passing judgment, because I've consistently stated that they don't have prosecutorial rights, which you also say you know, and you agree that that was stated right from the onset. So where have they passed judgment?
Alfred, who comes to state that this is state capture?
Okay,
tell me.
Let me explain.
Alfred,
let me explain.
Who comes to state that this is state capture?
Okay, let me explain in law. Okay, you see, just 1 minute. When you go to court, this thing that he's saying nobody
will respond to that.
Yes, this thing he says nobody should pass judgment. Let's just explain. You see, when we go to court, an accused has been presented before court. The prosecutor in his charges says that the accused has stolen, the accused has murdered, the accused has raped, all the offenses. That's the prosecutor's case. So we don't go to court and say the charge sheet. If maybe as we go on, I can read a typical charge sheet for you. You don't say, oh, he took some money, blah, 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 blah. My lord, we'll leave it to you to determine what it is. No. As a prosecutor, you state your case, what you think it is. Please, so this argument that, and not that we've passed judgment, but I'm just taking the opportunity for us to educate ourselves that when you see that they say somebody's been arraigned before a court on a criminal charge, and the same thing for the civil one. Even civil case, if somebody owes you or somebody has slapped you, you think it is battery, whatever it is. Unlike the way doctors understand, when you go to hospital and you tell a doctor that I think it is malaria, they are not happy, etc., right? No, for us in court, you have to tell the judge what you think it is, whether it's civil or it's criminal. So you state your case that it is stealing, it is state capture, it is corruption, it is this. Then the other side will also state its case. Then the investigations will go on, because a trial is an investigation, it's a form of investigation in court. Then at the end of the investigations, that's at the end of the trial, the judge will tell you how he sees it. So please, our democracy is gone far ahead than for us to now come back and say, don't say this is state capture.
So
no,
allow the processes to go on.
And nobody is stampeding in the process.
Allow it to go to court. Allow it to go through the various institutions. Allow the judge to pass his judgment on that, rather than passing judgment.
No, you are allowed to state what you think it is.
Of course.
Then at the end, the judge will tell you whether he agrees with
or
you
disagrees.
or not.
Good.
That's the essence of our democracy.
Good.
So that's it. So but don't say I'm wrong.
No. All I'm saying is that, you see, Alfred, let's allow whatever processes that needs to be done to go through. The New Patriotic Party is not against accountability. The New Patriotic Party is a law-abiding political party. We believe in the rule of law. We will subject ourselves to any conversations. We will subject ourselves when we are called either to court or anywhere with the evidences that we still have, and we'll allow the verdict to be out there. That's all we are saying.
Okay. Well, lawyer, a member of parliament for the,
I guess you do. Even professors in the UK are watching us. I can't mention their name because maybe they didn't.
Yes, in fact, just put on we are on a UK radio station.
Right okay. Now, so one of the professors.
Yes, but you read that. But let me bring in
consent first
on this, because we understand you've received almost 1,000 petitions, right? From the public, almost 1,000 petitions from the public on this oral matter. Well, you heard the Honorable Seche Mensah-Bonsu. He says we are not in a coup regime, and persons have right to acquire property. And so if you want to challenge the acquisition process, you must resort to due process, and oral doesn't fit that. Honorable.
Thank you very much, Nana. You're welcome, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
We have been engaged this year. And good morning to my constituents in Southern, Peki, Gbalikwe, Vetongo.
Okay.
I had the opportunity to respond to my respected former leader of parliament, the Honorable Oseche Mensah Bonsu, on another platform. And so
it was right here on Ghana Tonight.
Okay. So I will repeat same and add more. I think he got his analysis wrong.
Why?
Because the activities of ORA, the committee that has been set up to do what is technically called fact-finding, evidence gathering, for purposes of some further action by government, is properly anchored in law. And let me quote the Constitution first of all. In Article 41, the framers has this to say: the exercise and enjoyment of rights and freedoms is inseparable from the performance of duties and obligations, and accordingly it shall be the duty of every citizen F, to protect and preserve public property and expose and combat misuse and waste of public funds and property. Now, if you take this law and you reference, and my senior referenced the Whistleblowers Act, and that's the law I've also brought from home. The Whistleblowers Act, particularly in sections 3, in fact, section 1, 2, and 3, he quoted some portions of 3. The Whistleblowers Act was enacted in 2006 by President Kufuor. That's Act 720. If you read, for the sake of the analysis, let me quickly reference section 3.1. It says that a person has the right to discriminate. Read again for the sake of the argument. Read again for the sake of the argument. Section 1, disclosure of impropriety. Section 1.1, a person may make a disclosure of information where that person has reasonable cause to believe that the information tends to show A, an economic crime has been committed, is about to be committed, or is likely to be committed. B, another person has not complied with the law, or is in the process of breaking a law, or is likely to break a law which imposes an obligation on that person. C, a miscarriage of justice has occurred, is occurring, or is likely to occur. D, in a public institution, there has been, there is, or there is likely to be waste, misappropriation, or mismanagement of public resources. E, the environment has been degraded, is being degraded, or is likely to be degraded. Or F, the health or safety of an individual or a community is endangered, has been endangered, or is likely to be endangered. 2, a conduct which falls within any of the matters specified in subsection 1 is in this act referred to as an impropriety.
I see.
3, a person who makes a disclosure of impropriety is in this act referred to as a whistleblower. 4, despite any other law to the contrary, a disclosure of an impropriety is protected if A, the disclosure is made in good faith, B, the whistleblower has reasonable cause to believe that the information disclosed and or an allegation of impropriety contained in it are substantially true, and C, the disclosure is made to one or more of the persons or institutions specified in subsection 3. Okay. Now, what are the institutions specified in subsection 3? Here are the institutions. 3, a person to whom or an institution to which disclosure of impropriety may be made.
Okay.
1, disclosure of impropriety may be made to any one or more of the following: an employer of the whistleblower, a police officer, the Attorney General, the Auditor General, a staff of the intelligence agencies, a member of Parliament, the Serious Fraud Office, the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice, the National Media Commission, the Narcotic Control Board, a chief, the head or an elder of a family of the whistleblower,
okay,
a head of a recognized religious body, an assembly member, a minister of state, the office of the president.
The office of the president is there.
Is there once more? P. The office of the president. Then the district chief executive. Even DCs are mandated in law for persons who believe that a state property has been captured, has been misappropriated, has been converted, to receive complaints. And we sit here and say that a committee properly established by His Excellency the President himself, that I'm being inundated with this information, and I think that under law I'm supposed to receive the information, but let me put a group of people together, including a sitting member of parliament, who is also enjoining the law, to as it were receive the complaint suo motu.
Yes.
And then we wake up and say that it is unconstitutional, it is illegal, it is all that. I think those, including my roommates who are making these complaints, they fell into an error of legal reasoning.
I'm sorry, let me put this information. We just went off on Facebook. A number of you are just sending us, our technical team is working around to restore the connection on Facebook. But yes, please, sorry.
They fell into an error of what we call legal reasoning. When you fall into an error of law, you have the law, you have the facts, but you must have misapplied it. That's different. This one, there are simply no reasoning within the terms of the law. Otherwise, they will ab initio wouldn't have made this point. Now, let me ask you. ORA is a government program. The party, before coming to government, properly captured this in its manifesto, that one of the flagship policy programs that I will initiate is to introduce or set up a system called ORA to retrieve all unlawfully looted or unlawfully acquired state property, incorporeal or corporeal. And upon the people believing in such a manifesto promise, decided to give him the mandate. Then he comes to office, initiates a program in that direction, and we say what again? It is illegal.
Yes.
Then we are saying that the government in place is illegal.
So you are not in a coup regime.
Yes, and I'm saying that due process is not what MPP says it is. Due process, the definition of due process, doesn't lie in the mouth of an MPP, a parachick, or foot soldier, or of officer making that point. Due process is a process that is recognized in law in remedying a situation. I have just given you the law in the Constitution. I've given you the law in an enactment of Parliament that is in existence. That this process has been initiated to remedy a situation. I've given you the instances under Section 1, Section 2, Section 3. And let me ask this. The immediately outgone government promised to do 1D, 1F in its manifesto. They were voted into power. They came to roll out that program. We spent colossal amount of public money in it. Where is the law backing 1D, 1F? Where is the law? Where is the law backing 1D, 1 district, 1 factory? Where is the law? It was a mere government policy. It was a government program. They introduced what they call 1 village, 1 dam. Where is the law? We spent millions of dollars and millions of Ghana cedis in what had turned out to be shallow dams that drive in the rainy season. Where is the law backing 1 village, 1 dam? Where is the law backing one constituency, $1 million?
Thank you.
We pump money into that, set up what we call the development authorities, Coastal Development Authority, Middle Belt Development Authority, Northern Development Authority, and a ministry called Ministry of Hawakumzi's Ministry.
Yeah, special development.
No, special development.
Initiatives.
Special initiatives.
Hey, and that money that they were going to spend on their computers.
We pumped millions of Ghana cedis into that ministry's activities because it was supposed to be implementing one constituency, $1 million. Where is the law? In Kenya, there's a law backing constituency development projects. Where is your law in this country? There was no such law, but it was a government policy program. You pursued it. When the Galamsey issues got to a head, you put together a program called Operation Galamstop. We pumped millions of Ghana cedis into it, pretending that we're going to remedy the situation in our rural areas.
Well, when you made this point this week, that's Asefwa, the Otafo MP said, this Operation Vanguard was constituted with state actors, the police and the military. So
hold on. Let me answer him. Let me answer him. Okujeto is a private actor. The Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa is a private actor. So Asefwa, by his logic and reasoning, that hold on. I am saying that the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa, who the Whistleblowers Act mandates in law as a member of Parliament, to even by virtue of his standing receive information regarding misappropriation of public property and funds, is a public actor by Asefwa's reasoning. So you see, they are just making this complaint.
To just Okujeto.
But Okujeto is there.
But the others.
Why? Martin Kpebu.
And
by virtue of being in this committee, he's become a public officer. Right. He is not receiving salary. You see, as a public officer, it's not always that you receive salary. In any case, we had a finance minister who, for 7 years, told us that he served as a finance minister without receiving salary.
Oh, but he was making money from every.
Yes, I agree. I
too
agree.
Much money.
I agree, but for the sake of argument.
Yes.
So when they lose the debate, then they make very whimsical arguments.
Data bank.
So the argument that Ora is not back in law, perhaps they fail to avert their mind to the Whistleblowers Act. If they had done so, they wouldn't have gone to town on this matter. But let me continue. Operation Vanguard, Operation Galamstop, all this. There were private people who helped them in identifying the mining sites, the Galamsey sites. Were there not private people who were assisting? All of us were encouraged to assist the committee, Operation Vanguard, Operation Galamstop, to succeed. So people were leading them to the forest areas to point out where the illegal activities were carrying out. So by Asefwa's reasoning, it was illegal. Again, the gold for oil or oil for gold, whichever.
The gold for oil.
Or gold for oil or oil for gold. Why is the law backing that program or that policy? We've taken our gold and given it to people to supply us oil. There's no law backing it. But we implemented it, claiming that it will help to stabilize our currency. The currency is at 16 point something to the dollar. So this issue, we were here in this country. When the government came into office freshly in 2017, they took issues with an existing energy agreement, the Ameri Plant Agreement. They set up a committee, the Lawyer Addison Committee. They traveled to Dubai at you and I's expense. Where is the law backing that committee?
And Akufo-Addo ended up pardoning it by $800 million.
You wait.
$800 million.
Where is the law backing the Lawyer Addison's committee? Just like a committee that has been set up to do some work. Where is the law backing Addison's committee? They traveled to Dubai, spent weeks and came back with a report. That led to the dismissal of Bache Jaku from office. Where is the law? Where is the law backing the work of that committee? Because it was done by presidential fiat. Now, you are building Agenda 111 before you left office. Where is the law backing that project? So when the government rules out, when the government is given a mandate to exercise, and the government is rolling out its programs, if you cannot suggest constructively, don't question its legality, because it's neither here nor there. In fact, some of the criticisms is becoming ignominious. It's humiliating, the kind of criticisms.
Becoming what?
Ignominious. They are falling into ignominy in some of the issues they are raising about this matter.
Well, they say they are not against accountability. It is how you are going about it that's the issue.
Yes, for instance, this oral matter arose or erupted at the the appointments committee because the Honorable Dominic Aini made the point upon a question from my roommate John Daku that he said somewhere, his reporter he said somewhere that he will bring back the public tribunal system. All right.
It was a manifesto promise, was it not?
Good. No, he said he was reported. Then he linked it to our manifesto and questioned what the legality. No, it wasn't John Daku, it was one other lawyer. I forgot his name. I know him very well. He's in Parliament now. So then Doctor answered that, but this was our manifesto promise. In any case, it's backed by law. Don't have any of it. We are not in a coup regime. So this coup regime rhetoric is something they all, I'm sure there's a platform. They say just go and talk about coup regime. That in PNDC, the CDR, PDC and all that. And yet in our constitution, Article 140, let me see, I think it's 142. With your leave, quickly. Because you see, they try to bastardize everything when really the law backs what is being done. In the constitution especially. The constitution in Article 42, 142, 1, there shall be established in each region of Ghana such regional tribunals as the Chief Justice may determine.
So it's upon the determination of the Chief Justice.
That is the Chief Justice that creates courts.
May. So she's not really.
No,
he or
it
she's
says
not bound
the
by
shall. The shall. 2. A regional tribunal shall consist of the Chief Justice, 1 chairman, and C, all that. In our Courts Act, as variously amended in 202 and 203, from in sections 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, that's part 4 of the law. It's a whole provision on the work of the regional tribunals. Their trials and all that, appeals, when the decisions are made, all that. So whole regime.
Hold on a bit for me.
No,
I'm just making an announcement. I put out earlier, the last 15 or so minutes we've been off Facebook. I see so many of your messages on that. We're back on Facebook now. Apologies for that break in the transmission on Facebook, but we're back right now. We've been streaming on YouTube all the while, so apologies. Yes, please.
Yes. So the establishment of regional tribunals, it's a matter that's grounded firmly in the Constitution. In fact, we should be asking the Chief Justice, why should I refuse to do her constitutional duty under Article 142? We should be rather posing that question to the CJ. So it appears that the NPP is, well, there are some senior officers of the NPP, as soon as they hear anything about tribunals, they fall into a state of trepidation. They fall into a state of trepidation.
You think so?
Trepidation. Otherwise, why would anybody be talking about we are not in a coup regime? Me, my property, I lost my property.
You lost your property.
Was that a coup regime?
You lost your property to what?
I lost my property.
What happened?
One dawn, 1 midnight, between 12 midnight and 2 a.m. Some operatives in military regalia and police regalia, fully hooded. You couldn't see who was who.
Hey. They had covered their faces.
Yes, fully hooded. Armed to the teeth. Came with some persons. They claimed to come from, they came from state housing. That me, I had built on state housing land, government land. A land that I was given by chiefs that I did legal work for. Young man in the law, 2010, 2011. and was building.
So this happened in
June 2017.
2017.
I love Yabuabia Samoa for one thing. He stood by me. He was supposed to have traveled to Kumasi that morning. He didn't go. He stood by me, made every call possible in the world.
He was MP for Adenta.
Yes.
So this incident happened in Adenta.
Yes, Frafaha. Nobody will listen to him. So he asked me, Roxanne, but whose toes have you stepped on? God, this thing. And they demolished houses of my other colleagues who are also NDC guys. The chap I share wall with, who is an MPP, when they touched his wall, he made a call, they left his house. As I speak, the place has been cordoned off. We heard that they were about to give it to, they were giving it to some Chinese people. It's there like that. 8 years.
And your house was demolished.
Was that a military regime? It was not. Other people.
Raymond Acha
did you seek to find out who these
I took evidence of the military vehicle that came, the model, the number plate. I inquired from the military. I sent the evidence. They said this vehicle is not known to them.
The vehicle
that was with military armor plate and painted in camouflage. That's how it's called.
And the military said they don't have records of that.
Yes,
in their armory.
Sorry?
In their fleet.
Amongst their fleet of vehicles. But it happened. And when the then CEO, I hear he was brought from the US to come ahead. When he appeared before the public committee, he had no answer. We went to court. So people suffered. People were in their vehicles. At traffic lights, they will be dragged out of their vehicles and the vehicles taken under the suspicion that it was a state property. So like I said, you should be lucky you have Aura that is doing this decently, methodically, and just inviting information from people. You should be thanking your God that you have Aura. And that our boys are not on a rampage, beating people up in offices or dragging them from vehicles and other properties they suspect belong to the state or have been converted as a state property. So by all means, let us provide suggestions to make Aura's work better. But don't make the mistake and submit that it's unlawful. I've been to court over 10 times in the past 8 years. The Supreme Court mostly, and the High Court. If I disagree with a matter, I make my point, I go to court. I lost some, I won some. Some too, judgments are outstanding. Whether they will be delivered, I don't know. The judge is done. He's waiting for a certain directive before he can deliver judgments. I can show you letters. So, for me, Aura is properly anchored. The attempt to, as it were, bastardize these operations won't hold because they are on terra firma. They should do their work. By all means, pay attention to their mandate. My brother John Daku, pay attention to the mandate of Aura. It's not a tribunal. It's not.
It says no serious government will entertain Aura. That's.
You see, it is not. It doesn't lie in John Daku's mouth to say no serious government will entertain Aura. It's a government program contained in our manifesto, and we are rolling it out. We are gathering information. You've just been told that they receive information from nearly 1,000 people. 1,000
petitions actually came.
Yes, you see, the law says disclosure, so they are disclosing information. A body appropriately so established in law will now interrogate those investigations, those disclosures, as we speak. So, well, I'll be charitable.
Well,
so I think that we should pay attention to the law and make submissions based on the law, not by our suppositions. I agree that a multitude of suspicions do not constitute proof.
Thank you.
But it is these documents and disclosures from people that will establish Give some basis for certain actions to be taken. Prima facie. No, it's not by accident that as part of our criminal jurisprudence, a prima facie determination is necessary. The evidence before you must first of all determine that this is good enough to be looked into. So that is what the committee is doing, well, so and they are doing a very good work.
So a member of the committee...
And let me say this, finally. The agric mechanization is actually not agric, it's actually called agric engineering services department. And they are set up under the Ministry of Agric.
That's the video we've been showing.
No, yes. Let me do this quick. Let me do this quick. The agric engineering. Now, if you read his vision, the Agric Engineering Services Directorate is a technical directorate of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, MUFA. Mission. The mission of the Agricultural Engineering Services Directorate is to ensure the availability and adoption of appropriate agricultural engineering technologies in the country. All the tractors that have been supplied to district assemblies and private farmers to help them increase their cultivation acreage and improve yield came from this institution or department. And I benefited 2 years ago. I applied as an MP. Okay. So I have a tractor in my district helping my farmers. How do you sell the land upon which this department, such a critical wing of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, to private people? And push the department to go and be ensconced where? And documents have just been, it's so sad. And it's headed by a whole director. Look at the documents. The pain for me is that these are documents that detail persons who have entered, because when you purchase the equipment, it's an agreement. And you pay periodically until you finish paying. There are a lot of people who owe them. And these are subject of even Auditor General's report. As PAC, we have encouraged them to try and get the people to pay. And we go and destroy everything in such a foul haste. Why?
I see. So talk about this. Daniel Yaudemelo, who is a member of the committee, says that on this matter of whether they are operating illegally or not, he says, quote, "We are working and being told we are operating illegally. The courts are not closed. They are still there. So if anyone thinks the Operation Recover All Loot preparatory team is unlawful, they should go to court. Let the court tell us that you cannot collect information when people bring it to you. If it happens, we will shut down and go. We are not even inviting anybody." The publication went out from the office of the then president-elect, saying that if you have information, bring it to us via the provided hotlines, website, and email. That's all we are using. The issue of inviting anyone does not even arise. So essentially, it says, and this is to you, Dr. Pagru Bachidankwa, says, if you have questions and concerns about the work and the constitution of the oral preparatory team, then go to court. Go and test the law on this. Is it one that the MPP is going to do beyond just a press conference and what you've been raising?
Well, Alfred, we would wait and see what the next steps of the oral committee would be. And I think that our stance have been made out very clearly. Wait. Yes, we'll wait. I mean, they are still gathering. They are still going from one place to another place. The government is still being formed. So we'll wait. I'm sure that when all the positions are given out, maybe there will be two last standing members of the oral committee. That would be my good senior lawyer Pebu and Raymond Archer, because every other person on the committee would have been given a role. And then maybe Dom Levo.
I see.
Yeah, maybe every other person would have been given a role, and they'll be busy in their various ministry is working. And so we'll see where their next steps.
Well,
but I think that they should
hear from Daniel
wrap
Yadomelo.
up
He
their
said
work.
something about these documents that we saw on the screen.
Won't you appoint me as your PR for this committee?
We are looking at it. We are looking at it.
I hear it's only being considered.
Okay.
You see, they have removed the roofing, and so the next rain means all these things are gone. So I will find this very, very unacceptable, and I think we may have to show to Ghanaians if this is how we should dispose of records belonging to the state, valuable records belonging to the state. There are a lot of audit evidence which will be lost in here. A lot. I hope you can see there are a lot of documents over there. Some like site plans and etc. They are all being left at the mercy of the weather. I think this is not acceptable, and we will report to our principals and see what happens. You call the National Archives. They could have brought in the National Archives to pack these things and preserve them. And you see, they have removed the roofing, and so the next rain means all these things are gone. So I will find this very, very unacceptable, and I think we may have to show to Ghanaians if this is how we should dispose of records belonging to the state, valuable records belonging to the state. There are a lot of audit evidence which will be lost in here. A lot. I hope you can see there are a lot of documents over there. Some like site plans and etc. They are all being left at the mercy of the weather. I think this is not acceptable, and we will report to our principals and see what happens.
So those documents we're saying there is documents that Daniel Yadomelo, was a member of the committee, former Auditor General, says it would impact on auditing. And that's the major concern in there. This document, which we're going to put on the screen right now, is made available by the oral preparatory team. Some information that they have received and they are working on. As I indicated, over 1,000 petitions say they have received so far. On this, ones that borders on land, the suspected illegal acquisition of lands, the Bulgarian embassy demolition. You remember in 2017, this embassy located at Kakarmadu Road, East Cantonments, was demolished by a private developer under the contentious circumstance. Investigations revealed that the developer, one Jojo Hagan, executed the demolition without adhering to due process, leading to 5.3 million cedis compensation, and diplomatic tensions between Ghana and Bulgaria also rising. Remember this matter of the SNIT sale, attempted sale of some stake in some 4 hotels, some lands that have been identified as well, Heaven Builders land case that came up, the Lomote and Adote family land grab. This matter, in fact, this family woke up one morning and the next moment they had a building that had been owned by the family for so long demolished. And we have a video of that because a member of that, yes. In fact, we understand, was a previous ambassador. You visited that place as well this week.
Yes, an ambassador.
I see. And we understand that these politically exposed persons involved in the suspected case, state capture, in collaboration with the Lands Commission and the Ladade Kotopon Municipal Assembly, demolished a property owned by the then Lomote Adote family for over 60 years. And there's some documentation to that effect from the Lands Commission. Let's hear from a member of this Lomote family who spoke to the media sometime last year in October, between September and October, when this incident happened. Take a look.
Just about 2 months ago, a gentleman came over, came with langas. The langas were about 4. They jumped the wall, opened the gate, and walked in and confronted the tenants in the house that they were going to demolish the house. So lo and behold, they called me from the office. I drove fast to the place. I met them, and then I asked them, what for? And he said the place is for him. I said, where are you coming from? He said he's coming from the office of the vice president. I said, listen, this is a private property. You don't have the right. Do you have any paper, any document indicating that you own the property? He didn't mind. So, in fact, there was that misunderstanding. So I drove him out of the house. 2 weeks down the lane, at 1 a.m. dawn, he came with langas. They jumped the wall again, with a bulldozer, broke part of the building. So I dashed down to the Cantonment police station and lodged a formal complaint. And then the police came over. We invited him. We were trying to see if we would be able to locate him. We can't find him. Just this Saturday, he came with about 20 lanyards with a whole team. They jumped the wall again, entered, beat everybody out. They were just brutalizing everybody in the house, demolished the house within 4 hours. And so I had to rush to Cantonment police station. When they came, they said we should go to, if I need any answer, I should go to the regional police commander. With a team that he came with about 20 policemen, he said I should go to regional police commander. My aunties and my cousins are in the States, they are all coming down. All right, the next thing we want to do is to seek legal redress, right? Maybe we'll have to pursue civil action against whoever did this to us.
Well, so that's a member of this Lomote, that's Adote family there. And this week, the oral preparatory team visited this particular land where this building belonging to the family over 60 years they've owned this was demolished. And we're going to show you pictures of this same gentleman you just saw on TV speaking to the media in September last year. Just within this week, the oral team called on him to get some more details on this particular incident, the demolition of this building in that Labone area that was owned or is owned by the Lomote Adote family until the demolition took place. And this demolition of the building happened at 1 a.m. And while they were asleep, they had bulldozers just pulling down this building. That's what information we got. Now, we're going to put on the screen right now the visit by the team, oral preparatory team. And let me just, and that's what you see there. So that's the man you saw in the video this week met the team, giving them some more information on what has happened so far. What was the update they gave you?
So eventually, Lands Commission admitted their fault that having said Cynthia J could have the land, they saw that it was wrong. So they've withdrawn the allocation to Cynthia J.
They've withdrawn the allocation?
Yes. But yet, Cynthia J and her people went ahead and demolished the house. The documents are showing that the withdrawal was done before the demolition took place. So they will see what will happen. We'll add it as part of our report. So it tells you the abuse of state power, because she's said to have some powerful people behind her. They went ahead and did the demolition. Yeah, because, you see, the point is this. Upon the family's insistence, eventually Lands Commission saw that what they did was wrong. So they withdrew the allocation to Cynthia J. It was revoked, right? So if, and her company, so if they've revoked it, why do you go ahead and do the demolition? There was a lot of state power behind. I don't want to mention names for now. There's a lot of, there was a lot of, you could see that there's a lot of state power behind it. Yeah, okay, you know, that's sad.
Well, anyway, so this some information, as I showed you, made available to us by the oral preparatory team, some of which we went beyond what they gave to us to also speak. Not all of it have been authenticated, that is personally by us, but this information that they have received and they are working on, almost 1,000 petitions. Nana, this is just one of many as well that we've seen so far.
Yeah, Alfred. Thank you very much. I think those of us sitting in the studio and everybody listening to the discussion this morning can make sense of where the issues are. And even if we haven't gotten into the real details of it yet, where the processes are taking us. First of all, having seen what is before us now, I would say that it was a very good thing that President Mahama, and at the NDC, I'm told it was part of your manifesto, right?
Yes.
So it is a very good thing, because why? The fact that there is a great deal of public interest, one, and 2, public concern about perceived or real improper acquisition of state properties by certain interests, individual, basically private. That concern is all over the place. We know it. We have had all the institutions that the MPP is talking about. Who has even raised these issues? Some of the issues that we are hearing right now, I doubt whether if oral did not exist, whether we would ever have gotten to even know about them.
Absolutely.
There are people who have been battling their cases in court. And it is quite clear that when you go to court against somebody who is fighting you over your property, has political backing, you are up against a very strong wall. And it seems like the evidence that is coming up would suggest that a lot of the people who have had advantage of some of the state properties we are talking about either appear to or indeed do have real political backing from the states and state actors. So I listened to the legal issues that MPP raised, and then I listened to Lawyer Kbubu, who is himself a lawyer and a member of Oral, and then Lawyer Dafemepo here. And it is quite clear to me that the NPP's initial argument hasn't even got 2 legs to stand on.
Hasn't got 2 legs?
It doesn't have 2 legs to stand on. I mean, they are question of legality. I'm not a lawyer, but I can reason. You know, I've listened to details of the Whistleblowers Act. I've listened to provisions of the national constitution that actually enjoins citizens to feel or be obligated to provide information for the protection of state property.
Yeah.
Even without oral.
Thank you.
I mean, without a committee instituted by president-elect or sworn-in president or whatever it is. I'm looking at some of these issues and I'm asking, so what is MPP really complaining about? Is it their concern that indeed public property is being misappropriated, or that they have a vested interest in some of the issues that we're looking at? I mean, when you come across a certain way, if you don't take care, people will question your sincerity.
Well, they say they're not against accountability.
Yeah, so that is why I'm saying that if they had taken their time to look at some of the basic laws,
yes,
whistleblowers, Lawyer Dafemepo has read portions of Article 142 of the Constitution. It is not difficult to understand. You don't need to be a lawyer to understand the provisions of these laws. And a lot of the people who are making this case for MPP are very educated people. Some are even lawyers. They put aside all of these legal basis and just jump to do mere political propagandizing. Because now the facts are emerging that indeed citizens, ordinary citizens, even have a duty. And a person is elected as president. We are in a transition process. Everybody recognizes the authority of that president already. The mandate that the people gave this president additionally was even so overwhelming. So can we say that the things that were taking place within the transitional period, because the president hasn't taken over, so we will not recognize them?
It's actually covered by the transitional act.
Provision, exactly. So some of these things, if you want to make a case, I think that the MPP in opposition now should rather take their time. They shouldn't rush to kick at anything that flies around. Otherwise, they will be making more mistakes. Because I listened to all of the arguments that are being made For one district, one factory, was there a law? Or one agenda, one was there a law? And these were all legitimate. Would you say that because there were no laws, then they were improper? No. So I think that we need to applaud President Mahama and his committee. Just that, I would also say, we heard stories about party foot soldiers also rampaging certain public properties, especially.
They were called to order.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and they have stopped since.
And also, I was just wondering, sometimes you want to find out from oral whether those people appear to be linked to them or they were operating.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, so Barton, some people tended to feel that those groups were feeling emboldened remotely or indirectly by oral. And that now that the president himself has given instructions for a committee to go into this, we will also help. We are party people, we're also interested. And then, so I don't know whether oral has the power or the capacity to be able to call such people in order. But I'm sure
the
it is the
president
party
himself has called them to order.
Yes.
And they've stopped since about 2-3 weeks
because
ago.
that was a big minus.
Yeah, there was never any such incident after about the 3rd of January.
Right.
Yes.
So that is important. But otherwise, I am saying that because the evidence that is coming will show that a lot of the people who have benefited from such disposition or disposal of public property seem to have political backing, it has to take some action like what President Mahama has taken to be able to deal with like oral. Because you see, all of these things are happening. Even the police, I know, have property fraud. You might take your case to property fraud and it might not go anywhere. You go to the court. As I told you, there is a lot of political influencing now. People feel there's a perception that a lot of the courts now appear to be influenced by political power. So when people show up, I may not say that it has been peculiar only to the last regime, but the concern is that it's gotten to a certain magnitude. So when you look at those things and you look at the rate at which public properties have been disposed of within the last 8 years, you compare to previous times, it tends to send the signal that, look, the state is on sale. So I think the MPP should take their time.
On sale to the lowest bidders.
Not even to the highest bidder.
No.
You know, those for me are the real issues. Now, when in this particular case that Lawyer Kwebu referred to, when a state agency such as the Land Commission has moved in a particular case to admit that they probably would have made a mistake and would have sent a correction, and over and above that correction, a family's property is still demolished because people feel powerful. That is where I would say that it is very important that irrespective of CID, irrespective of the police, property fraud, Yoko, if the president thinks that it is useful to have a committee such as the oral, I think the president should go right ahead. Of course, once the committee agrees that they don't have powers beyond a certain limit, then the president will have to look at ensuring that this doesn't just become beautiful political drama.
I agree.
Where a lot of noise and a lot of euphoria is created, and a lot of propaganda is created, and then after 6 months, after 1 year, people also find new contacts and new connections. I can bet you the people who have been operating with the old regime, they will also find ways of connecting to the new regime.
Yeah.
Business people are like that, all of us are like that.
And polluters.
And then mess up this whole thing. So we would have come up with a lot of information. Everybody has great expectations. Yeah. People are looking for justice. And then as the dust settles and as the heat cools off, we don't hear anything about all of these matters again. So I am happy, Lawyer Kpebu, that this initiative is moving ahead. After this initial information and the evidence that is being brought up, and the fact that even in some of them, there seems to be some real prima facie substance. There seems to be some fact to it. After that, what next? We, as citizens, will want to see that President Mahama took over. President Mahama launched Oral. And at the end of the day, Oral managed to recover X percentage of all the loot that we were hearing about. Now, the other thing that
X amount of money.
X amount of money, landed and non. Yes. One of the things that I really want to appreciate about Oral is that before Oral, a lot of it might be speculation. People suspect. Names will be dropped. Suspicions, and so on. Now, this process, I believe, is helping us to get real information.
Hard documents.
Hard documents.
Hard evidence.
So that when somebody's name is mentioned or some incident is raised, it is not left to suspicion or gossip. It is not left to speculation.
It's not fabrication.
It is not fabrication. It is something that whoever is charged also has a right to also go to court to defend themselves. In fact, I have rightfully acquired this property. I'm being accused of having acquired it wrongly.
It's not so.
You also have a right to go to court. So I don't think the responsibility lies only on the side of government or the committee that the government has put in place. If anybody also feels that Oral is mistreating them, that Oral's work is infringing on their liberties and rights, and they have evidence to show that they have not committed any error or crime or offense, I don't think that they are precluded from also seeking redress before the law court. So, but I think this initiative, the effort by the MPP and others to try and bastardize it must stop. The MPP in opposition should look for something more productive, more beneficial to do, which Ghanaians will sit back and say, well, MPP was in opposition, in government, we are not happy with them, but at least in opposition, they are doing ABC, which is positive, and that can also contribute to the whole process of our democratic development. So I think so far, I am not impressed with the reaction and the opposition that the MPP has raised as far as Oral is concerned. I'm not impressed.
Well, you were much more involved in the Kufuor administration.
Yes.
You established the Office of Accountability. Yes. Yeah. The function of that office, does it in any way have similarities with the Oral in its setup and function?
I really don't think so, because you see, the Office of Accountability under the President Kufuor government tended to focus more on the accountability of public officers. In fact, I think that was the time that the demand, even though the law was there, the demand for public officials,
and public sector reform, introduce public sector reform.
To give an audit of their properties and what they would have acquired became very prominent. But when you look at the approach and the style that Oral has adopted, I think Oral tends to be more action-oriented. Oral is out in the field now, actually looking for or encouraging people to actively bring forward information. And how long has it been since Oral was put together? And if indeed petitions and information documents that Oral has received of issues that they believe, people believe, ought to be looked into as far as the loot of public resources are concerned, is close to 1,000 or more, then to that extent, Oral is quite different. Oral appears to be a bit more aggressive in its approach and its targeting of what they think their mandate is. I think that will be, for me, a major difference, because at that time, we didn't get so many reports of people actually reporting to the Office of Public Accountability and getting this kind of reaction. We didn't get this.
Didn't get that.
No, I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Nano Henento, thank you very much. And there are a number of questions, in fact, some of which I think that Madam Joyce Bauer Muktari, who's going to be joining us in the next few minutes, would have to answer, because there's a question about the president directing the Lands Commission to report to the presidency the status of all public lands. That's in connection to what we've been talking about so far. So Madam Joyce Bauer Muktari is joining us right now in studio on Key Point after the break that we'll be going to. But there's another question to you, Lawyer Martin People, but that it's not going to be that easy, really, if indeed you're able to establish that there was some wrongdoing by previous administration's members. It's not as if they're just going to leave their tracks to be traceable so easily. People who are engaged in any form of wrongdoing would do what they have to do to also cover their tracks or claim their path. Are you mindful of this? And if you are, not disclosing all of your strategies, what are you doing?
Yeah, so it's obvious, yes, that's what Domlevo popularly says, when you fight corruption will, yes, and we will see from our history how cases go to court and they take so long, right? Because people are very powerful, they can fight and all that. So it's true that a lot of these guys are not going to just lie down and be defeated easily, right? But it's also true that, especially for those properties that they've not succeeded in totally, so let's say the capture, those that they've not succeeded in taking away, they will also not get them. So let's say, for instance, the agric mechanization land, what we've shown. Okay, where are they going to pass to come and build? No, if they are challenging it, so they won't get access to it. They are not going to build.
But what about those that have been taken away already?
So those that have been taken away, a different kettle of fish. So when ORA gets to the implementation stage, we'll see how we collaborate with OSP, IOCO, etc. Then we would, be able to get into retrieving the assets. Because, I mean, some of them, they finish kind of dissipating. So you need a court of law to convict those persons, and then in the process, some of them can return. Okay, some of them can return them. So take an example. You see how? Okay, I'll just leave it because it's a pending matter. So let's give a hypothetical example. If let's say Minister X took our money, and then Minister X gave the money to his family members to attend school, and some family members also mismanaged some. So you see that the money is gone far. But if we put Mr. X before the law court and we're able to prove that this money you gave to your family and those that your family members have mismanaged are government funds, then Mr. X will be facing a jail term. But if Mr. X wants to avoid the jail term, he can do plea bargaining, bring the properties back, etc. Right? So, but definitely there will be accountability. And when we say accountability, I know some people want only the jail term, but it's a broad spectrum, different things. Even talking here, I always mention the Cecilia Adapa example. Even let's leave the Cecilia Adapa example. Let's mention Akufo-Addo's example. So forever, Akufo-Addo and his family, it will be history that Akufo-Addo tried to add $800 million, $800 million, almost $1 billion to the Ameri deal. And Ghanaians caught him. So his name is, destroyed forever. Here is a president who tried to do a deal behind Boakye Jako. You have your minister for energy. Then he's supposed to negotiate an Ameri deal. It gets to a point, then you see that, hey, this is an opportunity for me to steal money. So Akufo-Addo takes him out of the leap, and between Akufo-Addo and Gabi and the people out there, 800 million is added. Then we caught him. When we caught him, I was misled by Boakye Jako. Then he tried to sacrifice Boakye Jako.
But is there an issue that you will take up as well?
That one, it depends on further information. The one I'm willing to do is the fumigation one, because Manasseh did a lot of investigation. The fumigation between Akufo-Addo and Zoom Lion. that over 500 million they spent on the fumigation when it was unnecessary.
So you are going to take it up?
Oh, that one, it will go to OSP. Yes.
You are going to OSP?
Yes, corruption.
When will this be?
We are working on it. I've had some preliminary meetings just before, I think that was 29th or 30th of December. Preliminary meetings will be carried on. So the example we are giving is that, so though Akufo-Addo has not been taken to court over the $800 million that he tried to steal in the Ameri deal, his name is gone forever, because who will understand this? Who will? Anytime that
he hasn't gone to court, why do you say he tried to steal?
But he admitted, he says he was misled. I told you that when you are going to court, you, as a prosecutor, you are allowed to say what you think.
That's why I'm asking the question that if he hasn't gone to court yet, how do you say that?
Excellent. Let me repeat. When you are going to court, when you it's not when the judge
that he was misled.
Yes,
but
he admitted it.
No.
And also number two,
being misled doesn't necessarily mean that he attempted to steal.
Look,
I just think
don't worry. Let's repeat.
So you're saying that because you say you are going to take up other matters in court to deal with it. I'm only saying that if you are saying that yes, he was misled, and
no,
the fact that yes.
Boache said no, he's not the one. He didn't mislead her. It was deliberate.
Precisely.
Boache is alive.
Because you earlier indicated that some of the matters will have to go to court. If the matter hasn't gone to court yet, how do you then say that he tried to steal?
Okay. So let me repeat, please. All the matters. Did you say honorable?
No, gentlemen. Let's keep focused. I asked the question.
So I'm saying that, listen, in matters like this, when you have analyzed the facts and then you think that it is stealing, you are allowed. In my opinion, I say it was an attempt to steal. And I told you that even when the case is going to court, the prosecutor writes the charge sheet, they charge you for stealing. So all the people before court, they've been charged. The offenses, you have the various names. They'll say stealing, even when the judge has not yet pronounced. That is our law. So you're allowed to accuse. So that if at the end of the day, it turns out that you had no basis, apart from losing the case, that's why our law allows that you, the prosecutor, etc., you can also be taken on for malicious prosecution.
I see.
So that's a remedy. So it's not as if it's just a carte blanche that you can just see Paul Graves and just slap any charges on him. No, there is a counter law that if you abuse the law, when it is clear that there is nothing on the CMC and you just add him, like the way Godfred Dame added ACP Agojo and Colonel Gamele to the coup d'etat case.
To flavor it.
Exactly. And Godfred Dame opened his mouth and told me that, oh, Martin, I just added Agojo to make the case strong. And Agojo was standing right behind me and he heard it with his own ears. So that's how come in a case like that, we can do malicious prosecution.
Yes,
so please, when we sit here, I'm a lawyer. I beg you. I know that if I'm not careful tomorrow, I could also be at the receiving end. So I'm very careful. This 800 million I mentioned, I beg viewers, Akufo-Addo came and admitted. And then he sought to say that it was Boache Jaku who deceived him. And Boache Jaku says, no, you took me out. It was between you and Gabi. What have I defamed Akufo-Addo? I've not gone beyond that. I'm a lawyer. And you think if I was just in the, not wet my sword, you think I would have reached here? At least go to the bar. You will see cases I've done. They've helped Ghana a lot. You see, I hardly talk about myself, but when maybe in occasion like this, maybe I have to remind you. There were things, people older, lawyers came and went. I remember table number one. Let me mention something. Let me mention something. In table number one, but they been wrote in the judgment that, this lawyer, people have come and gone, people of great repute. They came and went. They never saw this thing. And he took this young man. Come on, I've also done my bit. So we are helping a democracy. I'm not interested in defaming anybody. That's how come Akufo-Addo hasn't done anything to me.
In fact,
all the things I do.
That's why
he couldn't have sent national security after me. No, but he knows I speak the truth. So there's nothing that can be done to me.
But if we have to go on that part, there's some things you can't talk about on this.
Yes.
So don't say it, because if you push me, I'll also ask you certain questions. You understand?
Yeah.
So don't say nothing happened.
Yeah, if something's happened, but at least the bullets and those things.
If you say that, you push me to then ask certain questions.
No, it's true. Sometimes somebody, somebody push a bullet, fire the bullet into my roof. But
unless you want me to ask.
Okay, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there.
Okay. Anyway, so there are quite a number of your messages which we would get into. I promise you on this, but this one says, Alfred, according to the the Office of Accountability and Akufo Administration did not receive this high number of petitions Ora has received. No, indeed, under President Kufuor, beg your pardon. Indeed, he is right, and that is because the government of Jerry Rawlings, which they succeeded, was not, say, doused with this level of corruption. Shams, thank you. Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo, good morning to you, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. Sends us, in fact, Togbi Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo sends us a message. He says, Dear Alfred, I am writing to correct the assertion made on your program that the oral team was set up to witch hunt the MPP. This claim is inaccurate. The team's purpose is to gather information about individuals with unexplained wealth and property, regardless of their political affiliation. It's essential to recognize that the rule of law appears equal to all citizens. Okay. I beg your pardon. Let me just, and investigating financial misconduct is a crucial aspect of promoting good governance and accountability. Chairman Sabonsu claims that we are not in a coup regime is inappropriate and an utterly surprising position by his commentary. However, let me also make it clear that the way the outgone government handled the country was rather walking the nation into the hands, he says, of the military. I warned the nation about it, and we must thank God it's turned out in our favor. And it continues and says, let's focus on promoting factual information and avoiding partisan narratives that can mislead the public. Sincerely, Dr. Nyaho Tamaklo. Good morning. Thank you very much for your message. This one here, it says, has the oral team received any information about NDC officials and their alleged acts of corruption? That is if you are privileged, if you are permitted to put such
I'm not, so
out.
we'll wait when we are done. When we are done.
You are not.
No, we are not. No.
It's only spoken about the number of disclosures they've received.
Yes.
Without reference to individuals or entities.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes. No. So we are only talking about publicly available information, not from ORA.
Okay. Good morning. So far, I have not been able to pick up exactly what Pargrave wants. I asked which law backed Operation Vanguard to receive the millions of Ghana cedis to do what they did. What law sent the hoodlums to Ayawaso and Techiman to cause the mayhem that happened? And it says, I am amazed at the way MPP and Oseiche Mensah Bonsu are boldly fighting oral. Mohammed from Salaga, thank you very much. This one here says, Section 3 of the Internal Audit Agency Act 2003, Act 658, mandates the Internal Audit Agency to ensure that 2B, the financial activities of MDAs and MMDAs are in compliance with laws, policies, plans, and standards. And Council, pursuant to the above laws, please, is it possible for ORAL to liaise and collaborate with the Internal Audit Agency, which is under the Office of Government Machinery, and report directly to the Office of the President?
Absolutely.
Lance Corporal Pakwa V from Ho sending us this one.
Absolutely.
The council. Which of the councils? Lawyer.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And just like Lawyer Dafemeko say, yes. As for, you see, any public funds that are being dissipated or were dissipated are within the regime. I mean, within the mandate. So information on the public funds. Remember, even a few weeks ago, one of the auditors sent us a message on an audit that he did on school feeding, etc. Right? Yes. So we are following up. I'll take this further details after the program.
Right.
We are following up.
Right, thank you. And a few others also send me information they say they want to send to you, the oral team. that some of them are quite sensitive, and so I cannot put them out. But there are 6 of them my producers have identified right now. Musa Abatwa and Aswansi says, good morning. Honorable Seche Mensah Bonsu and others who are raising concerns about oral. If your hands are clean, why not remain calm, you say? Thank you very much. I appreciate the many of you sending us. I've got the 1,623 of your messages on this matter. Thank you. I'm going to go for this quick break. When we're back, Madam Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, aide to President John Dramani Mahama, would join us, and the Honorable Nelson Rosin Dafiampo is taking leave of us. I'll be also joined by Professor Kwekwaza and then also Alfred Apia, who is a data analyst. Stay with us. We're back shortly.
Santex and Crown Paints. Excellent paint that is resistant to peeling, mold, algae, and fungus. It comes in a wide range of colors with high opacity, high spread rate, and dries fast with no afterpaint stench. Santex and Crown Paints are distributed by Bamson Company Limited. Locate us at Sickens House, Old Fatima Road, South Industrial Area, Accra, or any of our branches in Adabraka, East Legon, Tema, and Adum in Kumasi. Call or WhatsApp us on 05738399640. Santex and Crown Paint. It's not just paint, it's personal.
Paying for your Showmax is easy. Just choose your preferred payment method from these easy and convenient options. MTN Momo, Visa or MasterCard, Showmax vouchers at DSTV or GoTV sales agents, or use a promo code. Enter your payment details and hit submit. Showmax. Pay easy, stream easy.
First Sky Group, a wholly owned Guinean company made up of First Sky Construction, First Sky Bitumen Processing, First Sky Commodities, Volta Serene Hotel, Western Serene Atlantic Hotel, Serene Insurance, First Sky Energies, and Federal Rural Bank warmly invites you to its 22nd Thanksgiving service on the theme Proclaiming God's Unfailing Love, Romans 8:37. The Thanksgiving service in 2 parts will be hosted by the founder and executive chairman, Mr. Eric Sedi Kutoche. There will be an all-night service on Friday, 17th January 2025 from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. at the Trinity Temple Assemblies of God Church, TTAG Community 10, Tema. Ministering in word, Reverend Mark Sessi, National Missions Director, Assemblies of God, Sierra Leone. Reverend Sujit Alex, SAMS North Area Leader, Assemblies of God, UK. Thanksgiving service follows on Sunday, 19th January 2025 at the main auditorium of the Accra International Conference Center. The time is 10 a.m. Guest speaker, Reverend Stephen Yensum Wingham, General Superintendent, Assemblies of God, Ghana. Chairman for the occasion, Most Reverend Professor Johnson Kwabena Asamoah Jedu, the presiding bishop, the Methodist Church Ghana. Ministering in music will be MOG Music. Eminence Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, Reverend Professor Paul Frimpong Manso, Immediate Past General Superintendent, Assemblies of God, Ghana. Apostle General Sam Kwanchi Ankara, Royal House Chapel International, Reverend Steve Mensah, Charismatic Evangelistic Ministry, Most Reverend Dr. Paul Boafo, Apostle Professor Kwejo Opoku Onina, Reverend Dr. Lawrence Tete, Reverend Dr. Sylvanus Amegashiti, Elom Group Corporate Chaplain, First Sky Group, and many other senior clergy. For more details, please call 020-854-3441 or 0248-940-021. First Sky Group 22nd Thanksgiving Service, proclaiming God's unfailing love.
The most anticipated time of the year is almost here. The bold and the beautiful gather under one roof to find love, all the excitement coming back.
Date Rush, coming soon. Date Rush Season 12, premiering Sunday, 19 January at 8 p.m. on TV3. Brought to you by Enapa Foods, Heaven Insecticide Spray and Coil, Era Air Freshness.
Duffy's Ohima Feminine Mixture. Obuasi Betes, Nubna Womwankasa.
10 years, trying to abort a baby, she got her womb removed. She did not tell me until after 32 years, Miss Nancy.
Quite often I tell people don't marry because of love. This issue that is happening, where is love? Love just vanished.
In this side of the world, we are very fixative on having biological children. You can even go into fostering. There are a lot of children working out there who don't have parents.
You have the right to make your mistakes, but the other person also has the right to react in the manner that pleases them.
I'm going to divorce her.
Confessions shows this Saturday at 10 p.m. only on TV3.
The spotlight is on. Get ready for your best Saturday evening entertainment show.
Welcome to Showbiz 360.
Where we serve you interviews, dance and music, educative, and so much fun content.
Who feed the cow when they eat the lizard?
What's the meaning? Every Saturday, we bring you your favorite celebrities, content creators, and people who keep you entertained on your screens daily. Do not miss with your host, Giovanni Kalen.
Best of entertainment right here, live on TV3.
This and every Saturday at exactly 8 p.m. is Showbiz 360.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Showbiz 360 show on Saturdays at 8 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by
Betway. Winner big.
Cowbell Coffee.
Elevate your Sundays with the ultimate mix of entertainment that will get you moving, touching stories that will inspire.
When you were going through this,
I have to get divorced.
Why?
Because it got to a time that I have to choose my life over my marriage.
The latest in current affairs.
If you stop liking my music because of my political affiliation, you never liked my music.
No minister or party person can say that they gave me cash in my time of work, and none of them.
Fun games for the whole family.
The Day Show, Sundays at 3 p.m. on TV3.
Brought to you by Cowbell Coffee, Onga.
Paying for your Showmax is easy. Just choose your preferred payment method from these easy and convenient options. MTN Momo, Visa or MasterCard, Showmax vouchers at DSTV or GoTV sales agents, or use a promo code. Enter your payment details and hit submit. Showmax. Pay easy, stream easy.
One upgrade is nice, but a double upgrade is amazing. And that's how we do it. Upgrade today to get even more with Step Up. If you're on GoTV Max and upgrade to GoTV Super, you'll get way more with GoTV Super Plus.
That's so cool!
Get big value. Get big entertainment.
Very good.
Perfect! Upgrade and get even more with GoTV.
Man.
GoTV. Love it.
Welcome back to Key Point on TV3. We're live on 3FM 92.7, also on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. We are on a number of radio stations across the country, United States as well as in the UK. Thank you very much for the many of you who are sending us messages, hearing us much for the first time on those platforms, but thank you. You can also watch us on YouTube, TV3 Ghana on YouTube, and also on X as well, TV3 Ghana on X. But I am clothed this morning by Kogra Clothing, the best version of you. Locate Kogra Clothing on the Spintex Road, 18 Junction, opposite the Allied Oil Filling Station. Contact them for what I'm wearing and many others you've seen in the weeks gone by. on 0244 238 341. 0244 238 341. Choose Cogra Clothing, choose right. That's 0244 238 341. Welcome back to Key Point. And joining us is Joyce Bauer Muktari. She is special aide to the President, John Dramani Mahama. Madam, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody, and Happy New Year. I haven't been here in a very long time.
Very, very long time indeed.
Most weekends we are out of town. Thanks to God, everything is over now, and we are back. So good morning, and thank you for having me.
It's good to have you as well join us. We're ticking the box for the affirmative action expectations.
Oh, are you
sure?
Please, we are asking for 70-30. So yeah, I'm hoping that this morning you'll have at least 2 of us here. So do well to have at least 2 of us next time. Or maybe you can even emulate some of the other examples.
70-30 is on.
Start a female only every now and then, maybe once a month, twice a month, something. Might be interesting. Who knows?
It is happening already.
They're trying very hard, but you know. I had a very long conversation with Shamima this morning, and we agreed that we'll be advising you to look sharp.
Well, good morning to her wherever she is right now. But also, before you came in, there was a question directed at you from one of our viewers, not you directly, but then asking whether there has been any directive to the Lands Commission to report to the presidency the status on all public lands and who has bought public lands, how much it was sold for, and when it was sold. Can you give us some more information on that?
Well, thank you very much. I believe that is exactly 2 weeks since President John Dramani Mahama's inauguration. I think in the last 2 weeks, a lot has happened, a lot is happening, many processes ongoing presently. I'm sure all of us here agree, and of course, as I walked in, I listened to the earlier panel discussing the reasons why we really ought to take this fight against corruption very, very seriously. It is actually one of the reasons why many Ghanaians, at least probably over 30% of the good people of Ghana, actually voted for President Mahama and the NDC, because we actually exhibited very strongly our commitment to the fight against corruption, unlike the Eswal administration. So certainly, Alfred, we are actually working very, very hard to support the work of the preparatory team in terms of what Oral is currently doing. One of the letters that has gone out, and I'm sure you've probably seen it, is the fact that we are actually asking that all processes, okay, leading to, you know, various purchases or sales of government lands in particular, should be stopped immediately. What that also means then is that there will soon be an audit, literally into who has what, who acquired what, and when it was done. I'm sure that in the past an attempt was made, but we all know that they were literally only paying lip service to this process. Currently, this is where we are. I am actually looking forward to the fact that very, very soon, you know that most of these administrative things are actually being handled at the level of the Chief of Staff. But of course, in coming into office, we've had some other very clear emergencies, for example, to do with energy, to do with power, to do with crude oil and other things. So yes, all these things are actually competing as we've continued to hear and follow the work of the team that actually is currently serving on the Oral Committee. Look, each and every citizen of Ghana knows that one of the reasons why we've remained very poor, why our economy is failing to do as well as we anticipate, why women have remained even multidimensionally poorer than the others, is largely due to corruption. When we talk about the fight against corruption, there is no semblance or even any seeming thoughts of what is legal, what is illegal, what is lawful, and what is unlawful. Corruption affects the generality of our populace. It affects foreign direct investment. It affects the business climate and the environment. It even drives away, in many ways, some investors who would otherwise be here to create the jobs that we need. I am convinced that naming, shaming, exposing, reporting are all ways of fighting corruption. When you sweep these things under the carpet, when you go quietly to court, when you literally start a trial without people even knowing about it, then of course you are also feeding into this perception of corruption. Why? We had the Special Prosecutors Act. We had the first special prosecutor, we had the second one. They've made some good efforts, but there was always this stumbling block where government will not even allow you, where former President Akufo-Addo will actually come out and literally clear them even before investigations take place. We are now looking at a new chapter, a chapter where we anticipate that citizens are freely going to report on all matters affecting or bordering on corruption. I think that we should give it our support. This is what Ghanaians want. This is what they are asking for. Remember that beyond electing someone into office, it's also what it is you do that actually ensures that the people are happy. People say that where corruption is today, on our very worst records ever, people are actually tired of it. People want a certain semblance of logic in our fight against corruption. They want a reality of a fight against corruption. They want persons who can actually literally help them fight corruption. They want a leader who also acquiesces to this request that we want to fight corruption. You know, look, it is not about you and I, and it's not about what we think and what we don't think. We've had these investigative bodies all of the last 8th Parliament, right through to the 4th Republican dispensation, and even now. We've had the Public Accounts Committee, for example. We have the Financial Intelligence Act. We've had many of these attempts. We have all the governance and anti-corruption institutions. We have the civil society organizations. And let me say that beyond the resonation with the good people of Ghana is also the fact that civil society groups have endorsed this. Anti-corruption czars like my brother Martin have endorsed this. I believe that even the judiciary, because they had cause also at some point to report on matters affecting lands that had actually been illegally taken away from the judicial service. So these are matters that are actually within the public domain. So the work of oral literally is just icing on the cake. It now affords people beyond the Whistleblowers Act, beyond the Special Prosecutors Act, even whilst we are waiting for all the agencies to be actually, you know, literally find new leaders to actually take us to the next level. We have a preparatory team that is actually receiving information where people are actually, people's identities, which is very important, are actually being protected, where we are going to very soon receive reports on what is and what has not. Nobody says that there are witch hunts put in place by anybody. Nobody says that they're actually out there inviting people to ask them questions. So far, I haven't heard and I haven't seen. What they are doing literally is something that actually fulfills the aspirations of many Ghanaians. Each single citizen of Ghana, of all the 30+ million of us, people are actually looking for it. And look, the oral is not just to operate in Greater Accra region. It is across the 16 regions of Ghana, where many of these state assets have largely been shared like Kulikuli and Kose to all sorts of people. These are the things that we are, oh yes, of course. There's no value for money. There were no, auctions, for example. There were no reasons why these properties were being sold off. People just took them. Look, many people, I don't even want to mention my own example, where individuals will come in as scouts, literally, scavenging for public properties that are actually occupied by 1 or 2 public servants, etc., and go back there and partition them. This is what is happening. You are living in a home and they come and divide it into 2. You are actually in a compound and they come and put a certain, little thing there and block the entrance to the property. This is what has happened. This is the reality. Go to the AU village and many of these other places that we know about. You will see it live. I think that Ghanaians want to see a certain positive reaction to the fight against corruption. They want us to actually not just pay lip service. They want us to show very, very pragmatic ways and practical ways in which we are fighting corruption. And I think that everybody is adamant that this is the way to go.
But this audit that you talk about of the public lands that have been sold, within which period will they cover? It's going to go beyond just to 2016 to whatever time? That is, if you have an idea of the period of this audit of public land sold that you are talking about that's going to be done.
You know, when you want to find a solution, a lasting solution, a sustainable solution, you don't start at a certain point. Ghana lands have a whole record. Look, if there's any institution where donor funds and serious training, a lot of investment has gone into, it has gone into securing a registry of lands in Ghana or processes of documentation of lands in Ghana. So many millions have been pumped into the system. So there are records readily available. And we also want to literally smoke out those servants who work there at the pleasure of Ghanaian leaders and yet are there unscrupulously, okay, registering these lands, selling them off at almost no value. And, you know, look, there is also criminality in this process. It is not all of them that come with a process where someone has been made an offer and they are actually going to accept the offer, etc. No. Normally, they even have ways that they put these lands into lots. And in some cases, they actually sell them to individuals who are willing. And it's a very public process. There are documents to show. Certainly, it will be a fully accepted investigation. I am hoping that it will be something that will be done, maybe even since independence, you understand. Where were we before? Where are we now? Where are we going? What do we intend to do to preserve what is left of the lands that our forefathers left us? What is it we intend to do? And how do we even intend to go about it? Don't forget that there's also a certain antecedent to these conversations, especially between the chiefs, especially and government, lands that were compulsorily acquired and yet were unable to be utilized for purpose, lands where they were acquired through executive instruments and yet were not fully utilized for purpose. There's even these laws, of course, about whether you build to a lintel level and so someone can no longer take it from you. You know, there are all these things that actually militate against the process of securing lands and assets in the name of the good people of Ghana. May it not be said that we all sat and looked on aloof and allowed these things to be taken by such unscrupulous persons, people who only came into office because they were either elected into office, they were voted into office, or they came into public service because someone appointed or nominated them, and then they get these undue advantages over many other people. How can you buy land, for example, for $150,000 and then sell it for $5 million? How is that even possible? And then we wonder where inflation is coming from. And then we wonder why there's so much hardship, why our poor have gotten poorer. I mean, go to the Western region and you see how lands have just been taken and shared like Kose to everybody willing to take them. Go to the Upper East, Upper West. You know, it is something that has gone on for too long. I believe that it is time for us. Look, if there is one thing that the citizens of Ghana are anticipating that we will do for them, it is that we must be sure that we preserve for future generations whatever is left of our public lands and assets in particular. The chiefs are not happy, the citizens are not happy, even the politicians are not happy, the genuine ones are not happy. And I'm sure that my brother Martin will tell you that there are some politicians even from the other administration, and I've told you about the complaint even from the Office of the Chief Justice herself. And these are matters that are within the public record. Properties were destroyed to make room for the National Cathedral. Today, 8 years later, we have no cathedral to show. We've dumped $58 million into it. And how about all the other lands that were destroyed, the properties that were actually destroyed? Is it one
that will be of interest to the president?
It will be of interest because government of Ghana will have to pay those awards.
So are you going to institute some sort of investigation into the National Cathedral, the demolition of those buildings and the compensation paid?
But Alfred, can you imagine that we don't investigate these matters? Can you imagine how people will view this administration if we don't? Can you imagine how citizens will view us if we don't? If we fail even to deliver on even just making sure that we are able to recover some of these funds from all those persons, professionals like us, who receive these dues unfairly, with no competitive processes in place, no tender, no nothing, just merely because they were aficionados of government, they were friends of government, they were close to powerful and important people. On this one, I agree entirely with the earlier panel. I could see that even my brother Palgrave was unable to defend the indefensible.
You think
Parliament has tried. Oh, absolutely. I mean, he makes an effort, but Palgrave knows. We have these conversations all the time. The beauty of our life is that, look, what is wrong is wrong. What is right is right. At least one thing I know for a fact is that President Mahama has told every appointee of his that if you are coming into office because you want to acquire any public assets, forget it. Well, and for those who have taken them unfairly and unduly, we will be working to recover them. And for those who paid and paid less than value, even where it was a legitimate transaction, we intend to investigate all these matters.
Beyond what the president has said to his appointees, we heard this from the former president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo as well. He told his appointees that if you want to make money, go to the private sector. But we've seen how things are played out. So hearing President John Mahama say same, beyond just telling his appointees that if you want to make money, then get out of public service. What has he put in place to ensure that those who try to do that are actually fished out?
The first thing is that we have actually put in the preparatory work for ORA. And yet people are here trying very hard to undermine it and its legitimacy. That is the first step. So if every day we are having conversations about ORA, for example, it is also a warning to those who are coming on board that as these ones are being exposed, so will you also be exposed. I don't think that Martin is going to stop doing the work that he's doing. I don't think that any of the members serving on the committee are going to stop. I don't think the Ghanaian public today, if they were to see you or I going out there to try and purchase a government asset, that they will keep quiet and allow us so to do. I'm sure if they knew that any government asset was actually in our possession, people will be free and happy to report it, especially when they know that the Whistleblower Act is in place, that the identities will be protected, that people are not going to witch hunt them or people are not going to attack them, etc. I believe that the work of the oral alone, the whole commitment that has been exhibited so far, is within itself evident that people will be cautious as we go along. Before anybody tries to acquire a public asset, I'm sure they'll think twice, because people really don't want the embarrassment. Why do you think that people are even willingly, happily, suo motu, returning some of these properties that have been acquired? There are many people who lost properties also in that process, fairly and genuinely. Some government institutions, some private institutions, some stools and skins in Ghana, all of them are very unhappy about the current impasse, and they want to see a very sustainable way that we can work not just to fight corruption, but to stop this dissipation illegally of public assets to the wrong people, unfairly and inequitably. It is actually a balance that is tilted only towards a certain political class of persons, a certain class of business people. These are matters that we ought to work to stop. Look, these are the things that we take taxes from, that benefit and feed the ordinary Ghanaian. These are the things that we use to build schools and public institutions that serve the generality of the Ghanaian. These are the things that influence largely the outcomes of elections. Don't forget that elections also have consequences. And if you watch how the former administration, led by former President Akufo-Addo and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, look at how people went out there and voted largely against them, to tell you that we were unhappy with the levels of corruption. We were unhappy with clearing people who were actually found wanting or caught on the wrong side of the law. We were unhappy with the fact that you left everybody poor and just a few people enriched themselves. We were unhappy with impunity. We were unhappy with the disregard for the laws and rules of Ghana. What we are expecting today is that we have a new government in place. We must also work to give people a certain comfort that we are going to be working in their interests. Don't forget that chiefs are a key component of our democracy. Don't forget that citizens who own some of these properties that were forcibly taken. I heard Daffy Amakpo talking about how his building was razed down. Look at this young man, a lawyer, a parliamentarian, and he will be able to find resources to build a property like that. That sort of impunity is what Ghanaians don't want to see anymore. People with excavators going into our water bodies, going into our forests, and trying to mine where they should not because they are government aficionados and operatives. These are the things people no longer want to see. And I am very confident that with the very first steps that I have seen from President Mahama and the NDC administration, there is clearly a commitment to ensure that we don't repeat the bad history of the former administration.
Let me welcome Alfred Appiah as a data analyst who will march into the next issue that we're going to be talking about. Alfred, good morning. Welcome.
Morning, Alfred. Happy to be here. Hope you can hear me.
Great, I can hear you. Let me also welcome Professor Stephen Kweku Asare, who is a Development and Democracy Fellow in Public Law and Justice at the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD. Professor Stephen Kweku Asare, good morning. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, Alfred. Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you, but I can't see your image on the Zoom. I'm only seeing the background, so I don't know if you can check the connection, because I'm just seeing the background, the virtual background that you have. I can't see your image.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So please rectify that, and yes, in the next few minutes I'll come to you on it. And Nana Into, just a quick one on these issues that have been raised. Now we know the period that this land audit, the public land sale audit would cover. It would go beyond 2016 and to whatever time, so as to address these matters, and then also not necessarily send the signal as though it's just going to be limited to the Akufo-Addo administration. Now, the clear message we're getting from Madam Joyce Bauer this morning is that this audit will go beyond the previous administration, to those who have bought state lands previously. What should be the objective of this, or what outcome are you expecting of an audit like this? Very quickly.
Well, Alfred, thank you very much. As Joyce said, if you check how much investment in terms of funds over the decades have been sunk into institutions and arrangements and policies for land administration in Ghana. What government of Ghana itself has spent, what donors, there were major projects which were funded by the World Bank, big land administration and land management projects.
That's Lab 1, Lab 2.
Huge amounts of money. I mean, I don't remember the figures now, but I know. Up until now.
I worked as a research officer at some point.
Right.
The full disclosure.
Right. Up until now, one of the biggest hindrances to doing any kind of investment or business in Ghana is land. Land acquisition. Availability of land in the right location. And if government, I believe the idea was that if government was in control of certain strategically placed lands, and those lands were required for some important investments, whether public or private, it would be easier for such investments to be undertaken, because then you're not going to have to go through all the confusion of acquiring lands from schools and families and individuals and so on. But here we are, some of the strategically placed lands which government has acquired and hasn't either utilized it or even have used are now being disposed of in such ways that is causing real concern. I think this audit, I hope, because this is an enduring problem. It's really, when you study O-level economics, that's all I did about economics. One of the elementary topics you study is factors of production. And elementary economics at the time, this was in the 70s, would identify land as the #1 factor of production, because there are investments in space, but those investments in space have to take off from land. You have to build a spacecraft on land before you can even launch it. So without land, it means that you can't do anything. So if today we are having issues of the mishandling, mismanagement of public lands, and especially the disposal of them, then I think it's a very important thing. I would plead with President Mahama. See, people are beginning to be too skeptical of government's pronouncements, government initiatives. So even when government is well-intentioned, somebody sits back, gets a bit cynical and says, there they go again. I am just saying that, seriously, look, we're trying to compare oral to some earlier initiatives and so on. One of the things that, in my view, oral has done is that oral has brought a certain public awareness and public interest in public property. And the fact that citizens have to take an interest in what happens to what belongs to all of us collectively. I don't think we've had that kind of attachment in the past. Oral seems to have created a certain platform. So that audit, President Mahama, if for nothing at all, I mean, I don't know how far back it can go, but at least for the Fourth Republic, since 1992, when we got into the Fourth Republic, that one, at least, we need to do a proper audit.
Okay.
So that in that case, it will not just cover people perceived to belong to this political party or that political persuasion. No. President Mahama should clearly send a message that I have come, and he said it, and I believe him. He has said it. I am not here simply because of NDC. And I'm sure the turnout of the election will give everybody an indication that the people who voted so massively for President Mahama could not necessarily have been all NDC people.
Absolutely.
No.
We are here, floating voters.
Exactly. So this is a mandate that has been given by the people of Ghana. It is a huge vote of confidence. One of the things that President Mahama has done, which I think is generating a lot of interest, is oral. If he's going to go beyond it and now do this land audit, it is a very important one. Because now you want to, he said you want to reset the economy. Land is an issue. You want to reset the whole society. You want to reset our process of economic development. Land is a huge factor, and public lands for that matter. So I think this is a very important issue. And if the government, the new government, is going to do an audit of public lands, those which have been disposed of, those which are in the process, those which were rightly done, and those which are not so rightly done, I think it is a very important step to take. You know, there are times when the politics takes over everything, and that is what we have seen, especially in the last government. You know, sometimes you would be even occupying a public place, and before you are aware, somebody shows up with a document. Your residence has been sold to me, and you are not even informed. The person who is occupying the residence, the property, is not even informed. And I can mention one or two cases. They sounded very, very embarrassing. You know, so a lot of these things, I think we've gotten to the point where a government is showing the readiness. We will support what President Mahama is doing, but I am saying, let this not be a storm in a teacup, a 9-day wonder, because a lot of those things have happened in our history. We want to see the logical conclusion of this initiative and where President Mahama's government will take the administration of public lands so that there could be some finality as to how to connect to appropriately, legally, properly find land. Even if it's public, it doesn't mean that public lands cannot be disposed of. I don't think that's the idea. Or public property cannot be disposed of. But the processes, the legality. And now let me go a little bit, I won't go into the details, of lands that government has acquired and has not been able to utilize them. According to the laws and the regulations regarding such transactions, after a certain number of years, if the government is not able to utilize them, the government should return them to the families or to the schools. If the government still intend to find new uses, I think they have to go and renegotiate. So those are all issues that I believe should be addressed and addressed very urgently. Okay. But we want to see the logical conclusion, not just of a political move, but something that actually addresses something very, very crucial for social and economic development as land and public lands for that
social and economic development. Very quick, let me just see if I'll get connection to Professor Stephen Kwekwasari. Good morning, Prof, once again.
Good morning, Alfred. I still think I'm not on. And
the audio.
I think it's very, now we can proceed, actually. We can proceed, we can hear you. It's quite clear. So let's proceed while we rectify the image connection. Now, the conversation about the legality and constitutionality of the oral preparatory team is what has dominated the conversation this week. And earlier, Martin Pebo referenced the Whistleblowers Act and Dafia Mepo as well. But is there a real question about the legality and what exactly oral is coming to address per its mandate? Prof.
Yeah, Alfred, thanks. I think there's a lot of talk, but not necessarily a lot of enlightenment on the legality of oral. Let it be very clear that all presidents have the power to protect public assets. You can look at Article 58, which is the executive authority, but you can also look at Article 36(2), which I call the oversight responsibility. President has a mandate to safeguard public property. You can also look at Article 257(1), which talks about the president as a trustee of public assets. The president holds a constitutional duty to protect public lands and resources. And you can talk about Article 35(8), which is the anti-corruption mandate. The president has the mandate to eradicate corruption and abuse of power and then implement supporting initiatives. Even before you go into the articles, you can look at the preamble. The preamble talks about accountability and probity, and that imposes on the president a responsibility to make sure that he is holding people accountable for how they use public resources. Now, normally, there should be what I call OPAL. It's oral, it's Operation Recover or Loot. There should also be OPAL, Operation Prevent or Loot. And OPAL is something that current regimes should do. But because there's normally an accountability gap during a regimes do not hold their members accountable. The incoming government or the opposition government almost always has a corruption agenda. This is true of the president now. It is also true of the president, the bygone president or the former president. So you will remember that one of the plans that Akufo-Addo campaigned on was anti-corruption. And when he came in, he said something similar to oral. He didn't call it oral, but General Osafo Maafo had a bureau that was working on recovering loot. They brought in Kroll and had other foreign entities helping them to recover the loot. Then it dissipated. So what President Mahama is doing has a lot of precedent. Every new government does that because of what I call the accountability gap during a particular regime. So there's nothing wrong, unlawful, or unconstitutional about oral. Oral is really lawful, and oral should be institutionalized. Not just oral, but oral should go hand in hand with OPAL, Operation Prevent or Loot. Not only must we recover past loot, but we must ensure that currently there's no more looting. And oral, I have justified that on constitutional grounds. I think you mentioned the Whistleblower Act. That is, so the president has the power on that statute. And then administrative. Oral is just an administrative body. It is a committee. It has no power to enforce anything. It has no power to arrest anybody. It has no power to detain anyone. It has no power to prosecute anyone. And the president makes that very clear right from the word go, that people are calling him with information, but he's also doing so many things. So he set up a hotline. A hotline, oral is like a hotline. If you see corruption or if you think somebody has stolen something, report it to these guys, and these guys will validate your report. And it's almost like an intelligence hub. When they validate your report, they then transmit it to the appropriate state body to do the investigation and then prosecution. The fact that oral enjoys such massive report also does not speak very well about our existing anti-corruption agencies, because if they were doing their work, there will be less looting, and if there's less looting, there will be no appetite for oral, because people will say, well, there's no looting, so what are you coming to recover? The fact that almost everyone supports oral tells us that our existing anti-corruption bodies need to do better to prevent looting, and if they can't prevent it, then they need to do better to prosecute, to investigate, to recover the loot. If they don't, then it is almost always going to be left to new government to try to go back and recover the loot. And then it appears to be some witch hunting of the old government, but it is not. The only reason it's being done is because previously there was no accountability, and the new government has the responsibility. It is almost an obligation. They cannot. The people have elected them to come and recover that loot. And if they don't do it, then they'll get the people very angry, because the people will say, well, one of the reasons we elected you was because we were unhappy with all the looting. And one of your prime responsibility is to recover the loot. And if you don't recover the loot, then there's going to be problem. The loot recovery should not just be limited to sale of lands. It should be wide. Corruption, we should investigate transactions, loan transactions. We've entered into a lot of loans. Who benefited from these loan transactions? Let's get into that. There are people destroying the environment. They are basically part of the problem. The state is losing a lot of resources as a result of this galamsey. Oral should figure out who are the corruption bosses so that we can go after them and recover the loot. The loot there will be whatever they gained from their galamsey activities, extract that from them, and use the money extracted to remediate the land that they destroyed.
See, that's a very important point that you make, and that's actually come up a number of times, that if there are state institutions mandated to fight corruption, then what problem is the oral really coming to solve? Then ties into the comment that you make, that to the extent that this oral has received this much applause from members of the general public, and indeed they are volunteering information into the thousands to the oral preparatory team. What does this tell you, Prof. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I discussed that. It tells me that there's a trust deficit in the existing institutions because they allowed the looting to exist during the outgoing regime, during the outgoing era. And so people have no trust in them. If people have information, they are not going to go and volunteer it to these bodies because these bodies were there when the looting was going on and the people perceived that they did not do enough. So they are more willing to trust this new government that has come in and share the information with them. And the new government itself will be on probation. People will be watching what they are doing with that information. If they don't act, if the people don't see action, if the people don't see recovery, then they are going to start becoming disappointed. That's why I also mentioned that the new government should not do only oral, they should also do OPAL. OPAL is Operation Prevent All Loot.
But does this situation not even create...
accountable as well.
But does this not create another challenge? Because oral in itself does not have prosecutory rights, as we've been saying from morning. So if, because of the lack of trust for these state institutions, people are now trusting the oral preparatory team and giving them information, but yet the oral team cannot prosecute, they will still have to put this information together and give it back to this same state institutions that these people who are giving information don't trust to execute or prosecute. So where's going to be the end of this oral's work? Because that's the chain of their work. They gather the information, give it to these same state institutions to prosecute.
Beautiful question. So then we have to get into why the state institutions were not functioning or were perceived to be not functioning. One of the reasons was because people believed the state institutions themselves allowed the regime to interfere with their work. So the Office of Special Prosecutor, for instance, people may believe, well, the outgoing regime did not give them enough resources, or even if they are giving the resources, when they are doing their work, there's a lot of interference. People believe that there's interference in the work of the courts. People believe that there's interference in the work of Yoko. So the oral cannot be successful, and I don't think the president is suggesting that the oral is the only thing that is going to do about the recovery of looting. There must also be reforms, for instance, of the court system. I, for instance, think that no matter how well oral does, no matter how well the Office of Special Prosecutor is doing, if we don't reform the courts, because ultimately the hearing will be in a court, and if you have the same type of judges, the same type of procedures, the same type of adjournment tricks, then we are going to go to back to square one. So on top of oral, we must do judicial reform. Specifically, we must look at setting up special courts with specific policies and procedures and timeline that facilitates the recovery of loot. I'm not saying people should not be given due process when they appear before the courts, but I'm saying there are lots of problems with the way our court system is set up, such that if you are a clever defendant, you can forever have a series of adjournments that ensure that the case is never resolved timely. So there should be reform of that. One thing that most jurisdictions have, which we don't have, is once we start a trial, the trial continues very quickly until it's done. So most trials last only a month. And then if you have an appeal, there's something we call the final judgment rule. You wait till the final judgment, and then you appeal your issues. And then there is a timeline on how long trials should be. So these are some of the reforms that we need to do to ensure that our courts facilitate the prosecution of financial crimes rather than, what would I say, facilitate the hiding of financial crimes from them. So yes, I fully concede that oral by itself is not going to be the solution, but it is an important move in the whole game. That move should be complemented with opal. It should be complemented with a commitment by the president not to interfere with the work of the Office of Special Prosecutor and other prosecutorial bodies. It should be complemented with empowering prosecutors to be independent of the Attorney General, because that's one of the problems when the prosecutor's work is dictated by the Attorney General, who is a political figure. The prosecutions must be done by career prosecutors, not the Attorney General, who often has other political considerations in mind.
Right.
So reform the investigative bodies, allow them to do their work, give them independence, do the same thing with the prosecutorial team, and do the same thing with the court system. When you do that, then you are going to have a nice chain that work together.
Very important point there, and recommendations you make. Professor Kukwasa, kindly stay with me. And Alfred, just a quick thought on this oral issue, just quick one, so that we move into the next matter, if you don't mind.
Oral, like as we know now, is it's creating a lot of excitement, right? And the public is excited about that. People are talking about it, which is great. I think part of what, in my mind, when I think about this, I want to just, think about managing people's expectations, the public expectations when it comes to oral and what we're able to recover and all of that. Because I think, we've heard or we've seen some dollar amounts, significant dollar amount of money in terms of what can be recovered has been thrown out, right? And part of my concern, in a way, is that there's a potential that might undermine future government's fiscal measures, right? So for example, right now we are communicating how much or whatever amount of money that can be recovered through oral, right? So the public expects that amount to be recovered, or to an extent, some of that to be recovered. So if that doesn't happen, right, and then in future, government needs to think about, I still need to raise revenue. I still need to look at fiscal policy because I need to run the country, right? There's this expectations that we are creating. Does that undermine future government's fiscal policy measures? So I think, in as much as it's creating that expectation, it's creating that excitement, I think, I would just also urge that caution that, even as we are communicating about oral, we're able to do it in a way that we manage the people's expectations so we don't undermine government's efforts in future. That's just my only comment.
All right, and thank you very much. And just while we round up on this, Madam Judge Balmatari, because there's been recommendations by Professor Kukwasa and then also by Alfred, that yes, to the extent that oral is receiving this much public support, it's an indication of some lack of trust in the existing institutions, state institutions, to fight corruption. But there's a challenge, because oral cannot prosecute. they cannot really act on the information they receive. Per their work, they'll still have to transmit it to the same perceived weak state institutions to be able to prosecute them. He talks about the setting up of special courts so that all these oral cases doesn't go through the formal structure. Your thoughts on this, quickly.
Oh yes, very, very quickly. Let me just state that, listening to feedback across the country actually gives me enormous comfort that the buck actually starts and ends with the leader. So once President Mahama has actually exhibited very confidently that this is the way to go, we've spoken at length about the governance institutions and whether or not they are actually willing to undertake the responsibilities that they are seized with. I believe that oral is also a reason for them to set up. That now there's enormous interest in what happens in terms of our fight against corruption. So what is it that all these anti-corruption agencies will be doing? There is also a promise that President Mahama made in the past about the fact that these institutions will actually be strengthened. They will also be given the requisite funding. Don't forget that funding has actually been one of their biggest complaints, and many civil society organizations have also spoken about lack of funding. And I remember when President Obama came here years ago, he told us that many of these institutions just require what? Strong leadership. And I love the fact that for the first time, Martin actually spoke about himself and how a young little lawyer like him literally was able to identify a certain lacuna, a gray area that nobody had actually seen before. And the fact that a judge in that matter was actually able also to commend him for that effort is also something that we must also enormously celebrate. I love the fact that even before today, the chairman of the Parliament Assurance Committee, Honorable Ablakwa, had actually taken a full interest in matters to do with state assets, matters to do with clandestine ways of actually giving state assets to individuals. The best part is that, look, there's a lot of fraud. And many of the lawyers will tell you about fraudulent leases, wrong signatures, fraudulent documentation. There is a lot going on in that land's, acquisition process. All sorts of negative things. And so most of the corruption that we speak of, it is also because a lot of these purchases are done clandestinely. They are not even done following the law or stated principles of law. No, you will find leases that have been issued to multiple people on the same property. There's a whole gamut of issues that are very germane to our one, fight against corruption. Two, to protect state and public assets. Three, to also be sure that we take this the full hog. I love the feedback we are getting, but the best part is that nobody says that this body is unconstitutional. Nobody says that it is illegal. People also admit that under the directive principles of state policy, this is what the people want a president who is a custodian, a trustee of their lands to do for them at this time. The buy-in has been fantastic. Let's find ways even to cement the existence of oral. I would want us to actually legislate on this matter, to codify some of these things, to be sure that they become the voice of conscience, for example. Let's have a new awakening, a new exercise that actually mandates all of us to report what we see freely, to complain about what we see freely, to have a body that is also not tied in by all the issues of money, the issues of, investigations, the issues of prosecutions, and the hiccups that we normally see. There's no red tape. Just send an email, make a phone call. They've put up all sorts of ways in which people can reach them and do so very easily. I think that, look, this is a step in the right direction. I just want to ask everybody to give them the support that they need. Let's end the fraudulent transactions. Let's end the illegal transactions. Let's end the wrongful acquisition of state properties without due process. Let's end the giving out and issuance of also documents that really cannot even stand the test of time. So but first and foremost, let's safeguard what our forebears left for us so that other generations also can come and benefit from these sorts of
So the setting up of the special courts is one that would be considered.
It's a fantastic feedback, and I'm sure that as we go on, we will also try to see, look, the Attorney General is in place. And one thing I would say about Dominic Ayine, he's a very progressive man, a man who is actually very keen on reforms. If we can get the judiciary to sit up, if we can get the various anti-corruption agencies that will now be working under him to sit up, I am sure with the support of all of these very progressive and great scholars that we have, there can be no reason why we cannot, in the long term, even establish an oral group that will forever continue to receive some of these.
Nana, I have to really move on to the next issue. So, in a minute, quickly, I beg you, please.
You know, everybody's concern is that this won't just create political euphoria, but that it will end up in something substantive in our fight against corruption. You remember, Honorable Alan Chemate has given a copy of his GTP to the president. Yes. One of the things he suggested there is a constitutional review process that takes a second look, a critical look at all the anti-corruption agencies that have not worked, and the consolidation of the laws and the creation of a special anti-corruption czar. Something that eventually will give us an institution that is seen to be working.
Yes.
Right.
This is a proposal that Alan has already given to President Mahama, and now it's not just oral. We are looking at medium to long term, effectively fighting corruption.
Absolutely.
Right.
And I think some of those constitutional review things would be
actually
required.
also take care of some of these
Dr.
things.
Kwame J says, good morning.
Alan is going to do the 24-hour economy. We saw some.
No. Gentlemen, that would lead us to the next issue, so you don't worry.
We haven't heard anything officially, so I don't know where that thing is coming from.
I did not invite Madam Josba to answer this question on this platform, even if she knows. So please, let this cup pass.
I know, right?
Okay, thank you.
Temptation.
Indeed. So, Dr. Kweku Ej says, good morning. I couldn't have agreed with Professor Kweku I think that part of your message is lost. But it says that proposal for the setting up of the special courts is a superb one. I'm just hoping that John Mahama would consider that going forward. This one here from Dr. Nyahonya Hotamaklo says that operation Prevent All Loot, OPAL, is a must. It says it's a must, and the president must ensure that it is done. Prevention is better than cure in most cases. It says, thank you very much for your message. This one here from Kwesi Ameko says, good morning. If you don't want the Operation Recover All Loot, then Operation Return All Loot. That is also oral.
It still remains oral.
Yes, indeed. Anyway, that leads us to the next issue. President John Mahama's ministerial appointments is shaping up, and in fact, inching towards the 60 that he promised. But then again, there are questions coming up, specifically about not just cutting down the numbers from 30 in the previous administration to 23, but then also ensuring the cost associated with running the lean government is actually lean in itself, not just the numbers, but the lean cost plus efficiency. So that we wouldn't see the reduction in numbers, and then it would impact on efficiency as well. This is one point that, let's put something on the screen right now, just to give you an idea of how the government of John Mahama, President John Mahama, is shaping up. And we're going to put that on the screen right now when it comes to the appointments that have been made, the outstanding appointment. So 25 appointments announced so far with the regional ministers and substantive ministries as well. 35 more appointments pending. And let's flip to the next. These are the pending ministries that are yet to have, so the 12, so far the ministries have been reduced from 30 to 23. 12 of those substantive ministries appointments have been announced, and we have some 11 outstanding. These are the 11 outstanding ministries yet to have their ministers announced. Health Ministry, Defense Ministry, Interior Ministry, Foreign Affairs Ministry, Transport Ministry, Sports and Recreation Ministry, Lands and Natural Resource Ministry, Communication, Digital, Technology and Innovation Ministry, Environment, Science and Technology Ministry, Works, Housing, Water Resources Ministry, Labor, Jobs and Employment Ministry. These are the 11. And for the regional ministers, we have 13 out of 16, 3 outstanding. Bono region, Bono East, Upper West region, not having their ministers announced as yet. Now, first off, before we get into the matter of the cost and efficiency, how are you dealing with the expectations of your party people? Because it goes without saying that this objective or this promise of John Mahama will then mean that some people's expectations of being appointed as ministers, or some people they are looking up to being appointed as ministers, will not materialize. Yet they worked to get this victory for you. How are you managing all of that?
Well, look, I'm sure that if you observe the sorts of, the very warm reactions, the very positive reactions to the whole notion that even the number of ministers had actually been reduced from 30 to 23, and that many of these ministries had actually been consolidated one into another. If you watch the public reception of this particular communication, it should tell you one thing, that this is exactly what the citizens were expecting. Don't forget that when you have a very amorphous government, it also breeds a lot of dissatisfaction. You know what I mean? There's 30 million people, and you have this very large amorphous body that is called government machinery, and they are running all over with all the sirens and all the V8s and all of that. Look, there is a lot of consciousness that actually I believe that Oral and our new leadership is actually exposing. I've met many of our colleagues who tell me that, I just got this vehicle, I don't even want an official vehicle. Or I've actually indicated very clearly I don't want to be given a vehicle.
I see.
Yes. You'll be surprised.
The appointees
oh, yes,
are rejecting...
absolutely, and telling us very openly, look, you see, there is a certain conscience that is actually developing, which is what I actually love about our new conversations. I've seen many young people, and have you seen even with the CEO appointments and how people have received them? The appointment of the youth organizer, for example, as a minister, the appointment of the national communications director of the party as a CEO. There is a multiplier effect. Remember that beyond ministers and deputy ministers, there are also just as many state-owned enterprises, just as many boards, and many other opportunities exist in any facet of government. So it is not just being a minister or being a deputy minister and whatever. There are so many roles in the length and breadth of the country. Don't forget that even as these ones also move into these levels of decision-making, many other young ones will also be coming on stream. Whilst a lot of people are moving into government, there will be many other young people also coming now to hold the party and be at the helm of the activities of the party.
I see.
But the most important thing is that cutting down costs must be seen pretty much like justice.
Okay.
It shouldn't just be a mirage or be a conversation that we are having. I love this new consciousness. And when you go to the social media platforms, listen to the conversations from our young people. There is a very positive energy, first, around the number of ministers being reduced and cut down. Second, there's a debate about in the Fourth Republic, who's had more ministers. It's a fantastic conversation. Third is also the caliber of people who are actually being elevated into these roles and why. We need to find, look, you see, there's also something about greed and avarice, which is that it leaves a lot of people dissatisfied. And so when you have people who are selfless, who come to work in the interest not just of the party, but of the state as a whole. Look, Ghanaians are very, very quick to realize people who are there to work for them, not just for self. There is something called personal aggrandizement, and that is what people do not like. And when you have so many of your citizens being left poor, remember that this is another thing that Oral has also brought to bear. And I am sure that if we actually even went out there to exceed the numbers that we are giving people, Oral will be the first. I know Martin, he would probably come back here and whip us like no other business. So I think that there are all sorts of checks and balances that are in place. And why do you think this is happening? The Office of the Special Prosecutor, that act, was passed with such alacrity and full of promise and hope. The first Special Prosecutor left, and what did he tell us? He said on the grounds of what happened with PDS and Ajapa, and that the president, the former president now, was actually so embedded in the corruption that he was even more corrupt than the people he was actually trying to persecute or prosecute. So these are things that have happened in the past, and this is why I agree with Martin that, look, so many expectations were raised even with the conversations about the Special Prosecutor's Office. How did we fare? So this time around, every Ghanaian citizen is very interested, and civil society will keep us in check. Many people are following. Look, many people who are not necessarily members of the NDC are following developments in that regard. I look forward to us finding a way to allow for this oral committee to continue, to keep even us who are coming into office in check. A few days ago, somebody asked me, I hope there'll be orientation for your new entrants. I hope there'll be ethics being allowed for, and I said, yes. These are all matters that were actually raised even in the times of the campaign. So people know that you are coming in to serve at the leisure of the president.
Because you talk about, people rejecting V8s given to them and so on. Bright Simmons, who's the Vice President of Imani Africa, wrote quite extensively about this reduction of the ministries and the fact that it shouldn't just be about the numbers being reduced.
Also indicate, yes.
There must be indicators as to the cost reduction associated to the numbers reduction, and then improvement in efficiency as well. Alfred, let's have your take on this matter as well. You've been, I know, doing quite some work on this as well. Why do you say that the reduction in just the numbers from 30 to 23 is not, although it's ticked just one box, but it's not all what is expected?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, if you look at the 6 ministries, right, that have either been consolidated or we haven't actually appointed anybody, they amount to about 3.5% of the total ministry budget, right? All the ministries, all the 28 ministries, at least when we are looking at 2024 levels, right? So a total budget of 86 or about 87 billion cedis, about 3 billion of that is associated with these 6 ministries. And then the other thing is that we're also not clear what's going to happen to the people and the lines of businesses that are in these ministries. For example, sanitation has been consolidated elsewhere. The staff that are working in sanitation, they are spending on goods and services, of course, will have to be taken into account, right? The other thing is when you look at you can even look at the National Security Ministry as an example. When you look at the National Security Ministry, I focus on that because one of the biggest that's not going to longer exist, right? But its total cost or its total budget is about 1.6 billion cedis. And then about 1.3 of that is in relation to compensation of employees, and which I would think that a lot of that would be with the national security operatives and all of that. I don't think the suggestion would be that those rules are going to go away, right? So of course there would have to be better expenditure rationalization in these ministries, even as we have consolidated some of them. So for example, we know that for sure we're not going to have 12 ministers and deputy ministers, right? So the costs associated with those for sure would be saved. And then also, even when you think about like the higher level public service executives, so like, are we going to have 2 chief directors in the ministry that have been consolidated? Probably not, right? So that might save certain costs there. But I think, the ministry consolidation, as Bright said, in itself is just a tip of the iceberg, right? I'm sure the government knows that there's a lot more savings that can be found when you look at these in detail. Because, for example, when you look at even how much we spend on debt servicing, right? And I don't know my slides. Sorry, my slides.
I can see you. In fact, I can see the slides. You just put it off, but it was on the screen all the while. So,
okay.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it.
Okay. So this is the point I was making about the National Security Ministry, right? So when you look at it, 1.6 billion cedis in budget, but 1.3 billion of it is on compensation of employees, right?
That's salaries and allowances.
Salaries, exactly, right? And so we have to get clarity, like, because I don't know if, as it stands now, are we going to lay off all those people, right? And then that would translate into savings. So that is a small portion. But I talk about debt servicing. So in 2024, right, at least in the budget, and this was before we completed the external debt service. We know we got some relief from that. But in 2024, at least, we're budgeting about 56 billion cedis on just interest payments alone, right? When you compare that, that's more than half of all the estimated spend of all the 28 ministries. So even if we maintain all those 28 ministries, right? So what that tells us is that there is potential that we need to look at when it comes to debt management, right? Because I think that's a very big thing that erodes our fiscal space. Because how does debt build up? It comes out to spending, not spending within our means, overspending and all of that. And I'm not saying that, we have not gotten the indication from this government that it's going to keep the spending levels that we saw under the previous administration. But that is the baseline that we are working with, right? And so we look at that. Another area that I think is also important is the state-owned enterprises. So when you look at the state-owned enterprises, right, the central government, which is the government machinery's total budget, looking at compensation, interest payments, all of that, it's about 260 billion for 2024. That's the budget. when you look at SOEs, according to the Controller and Accountant General's Whole of Government Accounts 2024, the budget for SOEs is about 554 billion cedis. That's double the central government spending. So if we're looking for efficiencies, right? If we're looking for the opportunity to cost save or do cost savings, because the central government budget compensation and interest payment takes a significant part of it. But when we look at the SOEs, a lot of that is on goods and expenditures, goods and services spending. So if we're looking for those opportunities to save, I think the SOEs, of course, will be important here. You know, the GMPCs, the ECGs, and I will talk briefly on ECG, because ECG or the energy sector also impact our fiscal space. So in 2024, in the same budget where we are even talking about 3 billion potential savings for accent some ministries, in that same budget, the government planned to spend 17.5 billion cedis to pay up for shortfalls in the energy sector, right? That is even more than, it is way more than the energy ministry as a whole's budget, and it's also more than the budget of 20 ministries combined. That sector, that energy sector shortfall payment. Now, how does that payment comes about? How does that shortfall comes about? Of course, the significant part of it is with inefficiencies in ECG. So because these state enterprises, whatever they do and whatever they, at the end of the day, some of this will come back to the central government. So if we're looking for savings, of course, the state of enterprise have to be on the board, right? Because just this week, we got an audit report from about ECG, and the auditors were telling us that just over a 3 months period, ECG was under declaring its revenues, the regulator, by about over 1 billion cedis.
Yes.
Right. So that's just for 3 months. And this is just even not, it's not even a forensic audit or anything. This is just, plain audit. So imagine what can be uncovered with, within all these state enterprise. And this is just one state enterprise over 3 months. So I think that, whilst the ministry, reduction in ministries, of course, is welcoming, and it's something that the public appreciates. It's, there's the bigger task, right? It lies ahead in terms of rationalizing expenditure in all these state-owned enterprises. And even in the civil service itself, like you look at education and health, they have the biggest budget, right? They, like, even look at the top 3 ministries, including Interior and Defense, they probably make about 98 or so percent, 97% of all of the ministry's budget, right? So I think there are different opportunities where we haven't talked about even all the corruption stuff. We haven't talked about what happens in capital expenditure. We haven't talked about the likes of SML, and that's where the connection with oral comes in, right? But I think there are all these pockets and these significant areas that the government would need to focus on when it comes to cost savings.
See, very interesting that you put out there, because I'm seeing that the estimated payment for the energy sector shortfall, that's staggering, 17.5 billion, and that's just in one fiscal year.
Absolutely, and sometimes it can be more. And this is so think of how much fiscal space that is taking, right? Like just because there have been inefficiencies.
If these inefficiencies are solved or addressed in ECG, in terms of the power they sell that they are not able to collect in terms of revenue, then we are saving that much, all things being equal.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So we cannot operate the state-owned enterprises as we have done in the past. They have to really be efficient, and they have to, because whatever happens, it takes a toll on us, and then they take off all the critical services so this 17.5 billion is more than how much you spend on, it's about similar to how much you spend on domestically financed capital expenditure, right? So there's a lot of alternative use of this money, right? So that's just, we cannot joke with the state-owned enterprises, for sure.
See, now, but beyond the SOEs, because now I think the focus has been on the ministries and it being reduced and that being a cost-cutting and saving measure. But you make a clear point about the SOEs. Let's look at the SOEs as well, why that should be of interest even more to the president if he wants to cut down cost, the governance cost in itself.
Yeah, absolutely, because again, recently, even under the IMF program, one of the things that happened was that we started capturing the debt of the SOEs under the total public debt, because at the end of the day, the government has guaranteed some of those debts, right? And so it's important that whatever is happening there, like especially in the energy sector, I always like to highlight the energy sector because at least that's where we know there's a direct transfer to deal with those shortfalls, right? So if those shortfalls keep on happening, and then there's no, there are no consequences happening to the people that are in management of those institutions, then the state will continue to pay, and then the state won't have the fiscal space to be able to do all these things. Mind you, even these debt numbers that we are talking about, we know that we suspended a lot of them that are going to come due, and we have to pay them. So there's even going to be more erosion of the fiscal space. So if you still have to make these transfers to account for shortfalls in the energy sector, then you cannot deal with that, right? We also need to dig into the procurement processes that happen in all the different SOEs, like the GMPCs and all of the other ones, right? What is happening there? Are we losing money there, right? Because if the expenditure in the SOEs is double that of the central government expenditure, then that means that we need to really dig in there and see what's going on and why the expenditure is so high.
Let's keep that on the screen. Fantastic work there, Alfred, as always. I mean, look, the whole central government budget is 260.2 billion. And that's the double that the state-owned enterprises expenditure is.
But Alfred, I mean, we've heard about Cocoa Board alone and their losses. We've heard about GMPC. We've heard about ECG. You don't even exactly. Yeah.
But it's not all of the state enterprises. Not all of that budget is funded by the government. So a lot of them get their own internally generated funds. So we have to disaggregate. Yes.
But it's running at a loss.
Excellent.
Yes.
There are a whole lot of
a whole lot of them that are running at huge losses.
But they take in their own revenue. So
this one, Martin, this one on 3 months under declaration of revenue. What does that mean? What does that mean? Under declaration.
It was always
it doesn't say it hasn't collected.
The MD says it's not illegal.
And besides, we're always using it as a corruption point against Baumia because Baumia was in charge of ECG.
They keep some for operational purposes.
Yeah, so does that add up because to public revenue? Does that also affect public debt?
It does.
So
it does.
How is it? I mean, I just wanted to.
But why do you think that for the first time, even there's this whole diplomacy around paying for the IPPs and using the next tranching of the IMF money to pay for these debts? For the very first time, it has actually assumed international proportions because this is a huge challenge.
Look at PDS.
It's a huge burden, and you should hear how much they owe the independent power producers. Huge sums of money, huge in dollar terms, huge sums of money. I'm sure he probably has some very clear data on how much is actually outstanding. Look, it's the whole Pandora's box. In fact, as for oral, they ain't even started with their work yet.
I see.
There's so much more to discover. And then you ask yourself, what kind of leadership did we even have in these institutions?
So hearing this, and so beyond the reduction in the ministries to 23, there's that question about rationalizing expenditure so as to ensure that, yes, the numbers have gone down, but the expenditure also goes down to result in savings as expected. What should be the areas of interest? Maybe very quickly.
Well, I think Alfred has identified the SOEs. I want to highlight with an example. If you go to Sweden, and clearly Ghana is not Sweden, but it's nevertheless instructive. In 2022, the SOEs in Sweden, 47 of them, they generated profit of $3.7 billion and paid dividend to the state to the tune of $1.4 billion. So that just speaks to how the SOEs can contribute if they are allowed to run well. The problem we have is that the SOEs have been politicized. We need to stop the politicization of the SOEs and its attendants sending all kinds of political operatives to go there to work, but who are not adding any value. And we need to start professionalizing them. Let's look for the best managers to run the SOEs. And if we do that, they can start making profits and can start paying substantial dividends to government. I also want to talk about size because often people tend to fixate on cost, and cost is important, and I agree with everything that has been said about cost. Small government, like reduction of ministries, is It's not just about horse, but it sends several signals. For instance, it tells me that this is a government that is committed to prudent resource management. The president is sending that signal that I understand that, look, we are resource-starved, and I'm going to set the tone at the top by reducing my ministries. Small government also enhances decision-making efficiency, and the smaller the government, the easier it is for the president and certainly the people to monitor. So I have been a fervent advocate for small-sized government, and I'm very, very happy that government ministries have been cut to 23. And I hope that we don't go around the problem as we did in the past by appointing so many deputies. So we had a situation, I think the Agri Ministry, for instance, had about 3 deputies. They had a deputy minister of horticulture, a deputy minister of this, a deputy minister of that. So there should also be a cap on the number of deputies. The other thing that we need is transparency. So look, if people don't remember that President Akufo-Addo set up the Janet Fofie committee to determine the emoluments of Article 71 office holders. Even though it was set up in 2023, the general public continues to be in the dark about this committee's work. Right. The last time Parliament met to approve the report, they went into a secret conclave, and the people just accept that. Now, that's not acceptable. We employ these people, we pay these people. Right. How come their payments are kept secret from us? Then the last thing I want to add about the ministers, I like many of the ministers who have been appointed, but we should go beyond just appointing. We need to give each minister key performance indicators, what we expect them to do next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 4 years from now, as they've done in Nigeria. And then we need to monitor. I'm going to call for a new Operation Omampam. Omampam is basically Operation Monitor All Ministers' Performance, Accountability, and Mechanism. Operation Monitor All Ministers' Performance Accountability Mechanism. Omampam. Yeah, Omampam, yes.
Omampam is an animal that doesn't hear.
That
doesn't hear.
That's a very dangerous animal.
But I mean, it's also really. It's interesting you put this acronym to this action, but it's just to say that the real mampam doesn't connect to what you want, what you are expecting.
If you think of it in tree, yes, maybe, but it's just an acronym. And what we are doing is we want the citizens fully informed about the performance of ministers as they do their work. Those who are performing will become very clear. Those who are not performing will become very clear. Right. And then the signal will be sent to the president. Hey, this guy, you told him to do X, Y, Z within 2 years. It's 2 years now, and he hasn't been able to do it. So maybe it's time to bring somebody else to do it.
Right.
So that type of accountability is extremely important.
And I thank you so much for this very, very important input as well. And let me just tell you, I'm clothed this morning by Kogra Clothing. Call them on 0244-238-341, 0244-238-341 for this outfit and many that I've been wearing over the last few weeks gone by. There was a question that what this means is the number of the ministries, not all of them will have deputies.
Even in the past, not all ministries have deputies.
So because if you have 23 ministries, if you're having all deputies, that will be 46 plus the 16 regions. So not all of them will have deputies.
And don't forget that we've also consolidated some of those ministries that had like 3 and 4 deputies, because generally they were doing absolutely nothing. And so there's all of that as well.
Perfect. And I appreciate the sacrifices made by my guest this morning on this. So I thank you. This conversation is an evolving one, because by Monday or Tuesday, we understand the full complement of the ministers.
At least for the ministers and regional ministers should be out, and then
by Monday.
Absolutely, yes. And then, of course, you know that there's also others coming up in the state-owned enterprises as well. So there's also appointments currently going on. But I think that what I really want to take away from this morning is that I would like to review the document that has just been exactly. That's also very important that we take feedback from other resource persons who are willingly and happy to provide this information to serve.
Alfred Appiah, so that's to you. Yeah. So he's a data and research analyst. Yeah. Alfred, it's always great to have you. Thank you so much for making the time to join us. Professor Stephen Kwekwasari, thank you. I appreciate you making some time to join us on a very short notice. Also to you, Pagwe Bachindankwa, and to all my guests, George Bawa Mokhtari, thank you so much for coming. And also to you, Nano Eninto, Martin Pebo. My name is Alfred Akanse. Have a great weekend.